On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick are headed back to the land of tier list to rank the biggest and baddest Star Wars villains. Is Thrawn S tier? What about Snoke or Jango Fett? How about the big slug on Tatooine? Stay tuned to find out where your favorite baddie may land. I'm sure they'll have other dumb stuff to say, but they don't pay me enough, so you'll just have to find out for yourself if they do. Of course, they'll end the show with the question of the week responses and the latest round of Star Wars fan artist features. Punch it, Chewie. Hey now, everybody!
I can't tell you how bad that sounds on the podcast version. I know you podcast people, you probably know. I'm guessing most of you just skipped the first 10 seconds of the podcast with the hopes of not blowing out your tweeters in your speaker system, because the old "hey now" really hits on the audio version of the show. Speaking of the audio-only version, we got it. It's out there on all podcast platforms, and the live stream is hosted on youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show, Wednesdays, 5 p. East, or as you can see if you're in here right now, as close as we can get. Welcome, fandos, streamers. We see you. Ben, hello. League, hello. Divided, hello. Michael, hello. Props coming in. Props, it's hot as hell up here in the North Midwest. It's a basement type of day. It's just another day, another dollar for Nick, right? Like you're like, hey, I've been dealing with high 90s, hundreds for a long time now. So suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, today's the first day in like a month that we're not 90 degrees. Actually, now it is 90 degrees, but it was mostly under 90 degrees until about an hour ago. So now we're up at 93.
Yeah, we're like high 90s here. It's the thick stuff. Just not fun. Lots of armpit sweat going on my look at this. This is what is known as like a true schmedium. I mean, this is like a schmall, extra schmall type of shirt. But hey, you see who's on it, people? That's right, my man, Darth Vader. There's a reason for that, because today we are doing our Star Wars villains tier rank, whatever the hell you want to call it. Is Vader S tier? Is he D tier? How dare you say that, Matthew? But we'll be getting that towards the middle of the show. As always, we're going to open things up with a little Ask Us Anything, some pop talk. We've got some little Star Wars news nuggets to get into, talking about Outlaws' initial launch here and how rocky that is. Sigourney Weaver, Ripley making her way to Star Wars to get some cash. I didn't cue it up, but we'll say it. We learned that Keanu Reeves was considered to play Master Soul, but he turned it down in favor of doing the Sonic movie. What does that say about the state of Star Wars? You gotta love it. It would have been nice seeing Neo and Trinity reunited, but we didn't need that national treasure to be tarnished like the other poor actors of The Acolyte, so I'm glad Keanu did not get burnt or blown up by that Star Wars fan troll hand grenade. Oh, who's this? Mariana Arnold. All right. That's a new name in the stream. We always love that. We speak your name. We highlight you. We love you. Thanks for joining. All right, buddy. What do you think? A little Ask Us Anything? See what the fans cooked up this week? I know we got some oddballs out there.
We got some weird ones. Started off.
The one we're going to lead with is a little out there in left field, but it's definitely, like, I'm not going to lie, it's Star Wars Time Show, correct? We've never said we're an up and up type of podcast. In fact, if you are on the stream, you can see one of our sayings right there. We are a Star Wars podcast for a more uncivilized age, and Spot Spencer has definitely kind of embraced that with his question here. So here we go. Nick, I'll let you lead with this, but Spencer's asking, Ki-Adi-Mundi's sex life question. So
he says free pass to unemotionally raw dog to help procreate his species. So I guess he's asking Matt, you interpreted this as, would we have sex with Ki-Adi-Mundi to help him
think Spencer
procreate?
wants us to fuck Conehead for some reason.
I don't know if there would be any procreation happening there, but if he's asking what if I was in charge of the Jedi Council, would I allow him to help procreate his species? My answer would be yes, because if I was head of the Jedi Council, I would not have a rule against Jedis having relationships, because that leads to not good things happening.
I love it, dude. So, yeah, I guess you're right. So I'm, I guess what does that say about me and where my head goes when I immediately thought that he wanted me to make love to Ki-Adi-Mundi to try and produce babies. So I'll run with that. Sure, why not? I mean, to help them out. I know their species was, were they on the verge of extinction? Who knows? But I'm always here to help a friend out. And Ki-Adi-Mundi, he just looked a little tense, a little angry. So I do think he needed a release, Spencer.
Yeah.
But yeah, he should be able to go out and fuck whatever he wants. That guy especially. He's like Mace Windu. They're a little wound too tight. All right.
Ki-Adi and Mace definitely need a massage to loosen up, something like that.
Oops, I just closed it out. All right, BC Scrubs asking, did you use Seth's ranking guidelines for your villains tier list? No.
I don't know what that is.
We use mine because I am always right. I'm better than everyone else. Remember, I'm a narcissist, so my Star Wars opinions are better. But I'm glad you asked, BC, because I actually do have some criteria that we might as well introduce right now for our list, Nick. And, when we get to it, buddy, we're going to be tearing them out again, maybe arguing, reshuffling, jumping from tier to tier. But when we're talking about villains, Star Wars villains in particular, because we can't have some fantastical elements in the Star Wars universe, I wrote down a few things. I'm thinking, you got to look at their power, like legitimate power, force power, power over people. I want to look at their kill count as well. I want to look at their strategy and tactics. And finally, I don't know how we can judge this, but I wrote it down, Nick, pure evilness. All right, so we can look at their power level, their kill count, how strategic are they, how good were they at executing their plans, and then what were they on just the straight up evil meter. Okay, so there you go, BC. Those are our guidelines. I know I watched this episode of BTDS, but I forget his specific criterion. Okay, question answered. Now, you're not wrong, Props. I look like Casper today, and I'm not going to sit here and mess with my lighting, but I don't know what's going on. I mean, I look white. Like, I am the whitest white guy right now. I could be the mascot for MAGA. That is how white and manly I look right now. All right, this one coming from Mando Mugshots. If you were stuck in a galaxy far, far away, who or what would be your dream sidekick character?
All right. If I was stuck there, who would be my dream sidekick character? I mean, I feel like it's got to be Chewbacca is my first thought, because he's loyal to a fault to Han, and I know that that's because of his life debt, but still, if we had a similar arrangement, he's loyal to a fault. He's very handy. He's good in a battle. He's massively strong. He can get down and dirty and use his hands if he needs to. He can fight from a distance. He doesn't have the Force or anything like that, but I feel like he is probably one of the better travel companions as well. He knows how to cook. We saw him cooking a porg in TLJ. He knows how to fix
a pilot,
ship.
Right?
Yeah,
hell of a pilot.
So I'm leaning towards Chewie right off the bat. But I'd like to hear your opinion on this.
You know what? That's a good one, and I kind of hate myself for not even thinking about the Bacca, because he probably is the prototypical ideal sidekick. In Star Wars for sure, but as you said, even in real life. I mean, hell, we would never say it to his face, but you would almost get like a dog vibe if you had Chewbacca riding shotgun with you in real life here. I kind of thought about this a little bit, and I'm going astromech. Okay?
Yeah.
Astromech, like an R2. I mean, if you want me to name a specific, it would be that guy right there. One of the true hero of Star Wars. I know I've made my case before here on this humble little show. But if you think about what R2-D2 has done for the Skywalker family, without him, they don't exist. I mean, literally, Padme gets blown up, leaving Naboo by the Tread Federation blockade. So, and he just continues to save their asses throughout the saga, and really all the way up into the sequel trilogy. Even though he like Luke kind of quit, it was his knowledge, his map key, that allowed them to find angry Luke so he could throw lightsabers to porgs and all that fun stuff in TLJ. So yeah, Astromech, R2 in particular.
Yeah, good call.
All right. Next question we have coming from Michael Kramer. Can't make it live today. He always kind of taunts me with that Clemson helmet there. Although I'm not so worried about Clemson anymore. I think they've kind of had their time, and Dabo's an idiot. Like, he will not use the transfer portal in 2024, and that just, like, what are you doing? So here's the question. What's the situation with the KOTOR remake and Star Wars Eclipse? Did they get canned? So here's the best we can give you, Michael. Neither one are officially canned. I would say both are in limbo. The story with the KOTOR remake is studios have been bought and sold, and it's been transferred upside down, left, right, you name it. It's not officially dead as of the last reporting, I think, from Jason Schreier, who used to be Kotaku. I don't know what he's doing now. Eclipse, on the other hand, again, not officially canceled, but that has had even less updates than the KOTOR remake. Yeah, you know, it's at that, what studio was Eclipse with? A somewhat controversial one.
Quantic Dream, right? Was that it?
Yeah, Quantic Dream. There you go. Yep. Them. But yeah, I mean, there's the latest updates on both, not canceled, but nothing else, in limbo at best. Unless you've heard something, Nick.
No, not anything like serious or anything that indicates that stuff will be moving faster. I guess the best way to put it is it seemed like the KOTOR remake was shelved for at least some amount of time, and it might be re-entering development, but that's basically running through a remake studio.
Right. Is it with Aspire now, or it left Aspire and went somewhere else? It was something like that. Like, I know Aspire was involved. I don't know if they're the current holders or if they're the ones that passed it on.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure anymore either. I remember Aspire being attached at some point, but I cannot remember if they are still a part of that.
But you're right. I mean, that's kind of what it was. It's like, oh, yeah, here you go, there you go. Or a parent company was bought, so who owns this, who owns that? But I think we can say with some confidence they're not fully canceled, but considering the lack of movement, the lack of updates on both, I also wouldn't hold out hope that you're going to get both. You might get one. Both, I doubt it. I honestly was eager for each one of these. I mean, I'll play KOTOR any day, especially if they repaint it and change it a bit. In Eclipse, quite frankly, studio or not, I thought it was an interesting idea. And that, you know, the sizzle they showed us, the original trailer, man, I know it wasn't in game, but damn, it looked good. So, but that's where we're at on that. We will be talking a little bit about Outlaws. I have not played it yet, but we want just to address some PSA type of stuff for those of you that might be thinking about getting it early, or if you got it early, you might be able to commiserate with some of your pain. Because I know someone that, you know, every once in a while checks in on us and we check in on them. But Star Wars Sis 66, he got hit by the PS5 game breaker, which is sucky. Guess he lost like 4 or 5 hours. And was basically told, tough shit, here's the new patch, you got to start over. So we'll touch on that. All right, this one, Tiger Lily, who's starting to become more of a frequent interactor on Instagram, so we appreciate you and speak your name. She's asking, are you guys going to Celebration in Japan, and what panel would you want to see? Well, as of right now, we're not going. Stuff has happened here at House Haywood that has kind of limited my ability to do stuff like this, and even when I had more cashola, it still wasn't really lining up with real life. You know, I got a little kid in school. It would be right in the middle of a school week. We didn't want to pull her out. So it's not looking likely. It would really require someone essentially saying, hey, Matt, we'll take you out. And then I might figure that out. But outside of that, not going down. Nick, I'll let you answer what panel here after I go, but if I'm kind of thinking, I would want to see the panel for Mandalorian and Grogu the most, because that would probably be the most developed project next year about this time.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what panels are going to be on, and I didn't look at anything Star Wars Celebration related.
Right, there are no listed panels. You just kind of got to think. It could possibly maybe some Rey movie stuff if they move on that, but in my opinion, it's going to be Mando and Grogu is probably going to be the big tent pole for this celebration, and they might throw like a surprise TV announcement, and maybe you get some Ahsoka Season 2 updates.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably choose to be in the I don't know, like maybe the Rey one, just because that seems the most interesting. Like the TV shit is kind of already known; it's a known quantity. I know what it's going to be. And I'm more interested in like the return to film, especially like continuing that character's arc. So if there's something going on with that, I would probably choose that one. The Mandalorian and Grogu one is like, I mean, that's just going to be like them talking about the show for an hour and a half, and like maybe you get a sizzle reel or something like that. But yeah, I would be more interested in like the continuation of the Rey arc and seeing what ideas are floating around over there.
He's a Skywalker Saga homer, so it doesn't surprise me. Okay, up next, coming from Bat 2797 Studios, winning Mega Millions numbers, please. All right, I'll start with the first four, and Nick, you give the rest. 1138.
Are how many numbers are in the Mega Millions? I don't play the lottery. Is it 8?
Random. Rattle off a few more. So 1138, go.
5309. There you go.
Okay, all right.
8 numbers.
Write it down. You're gonna win. Hey there, Michael. Glad to see you drop in. We covered your question. Wasn't a great answer. They're not canceled, but there's definitely no movement on either game. All right, EKU Rory with a good one here. Favorite fast food French fries, Nick?
Mine are like seasoned fries. So think like if you have Rallies around you, or if you have a Checkers around you, even a Popeyes, like Popeyes fries are seasoned fries. So like that's my go-to.
Would you say, because I know exactly what you're talking about, would you say Arby's curly fries falls in that category? Or is that a whole different taste?
They're similar, yeah. I mean, I know like they're curly and they have the seasoning on them, so I would put them in the same ballpark. Yeah.
But yeah, gun to head, you're going Rallies or Checkers, which is a fine choice.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going plain Jane bullshit, but I mean, honestly, if you think about it, they really are supreme McDonald's. I mean, I hate to give them credit, but McDonald's fries are, if they cook them right, salt them right, whew. Just a good plain fry, but I know where you're coming from, young Nick. The Arby curly fries would have been my second because of that. I do love that seasoning, and it's not fast food, but there's this little Mexican place by us, and it's odd to say a Mexican place, but they have fantastic seasoned, like lightly battered fries. Oh my God.
Nice.
Oh my God. So good. So yeah, I love questions like that. I could talk about food all day long. That is my favorite drug. It's also why I have to fast and work out the way I do. Otherwise, I would look like Jabba the Hutt. All right. Thank you, everyone. I always love Ask Us Anything. Don't forget, and during the fan segment, we'll be coming back to our fans for their question of the week responses and the top 5 Star Wars fan artist features. All right, good stuff here. Let me get back to my stream screens. Oh boy, not all those though. All right, Nick. So we do have a few things to discuss before we get to the Battle Royale, the ranking, the tier off of Star Wars villains here.
Indeed.
And really, the first thing is a little pop culture talk. You know me, I love movies. I still do the A-list stuff. And I try to catch at least one a week if it makes sense, so I'm getting some value for my dollar. These days, I'm really trying to stretch the value of my dollar. And just another PSA, I was talking to young Nick about this. If you're like me and you've been a lazy asshole on like your internet service provider, your cell phone provider, you may want to go check in and see what current deals they're offering, because ISPs, they don't want to lose you. So if you just go, hey, Spectrum is offering $50 a month for 1 gig down, 50 megs up. What can you do for me? There's a good chance to be like, okay, here you go. Same thing with Verizon. If you've just been rolling a plan for the past few years, sign in and see what they offer now. Because this My Plan shit they're doing where you can stack in like streaming services, there is true savings there. For example, I canceled my Disney Plus no ads. I'm now getting the Disney bundle, which is Disney Plus no ads, Hulu ads, ESPN Plus ads for $4 cheaper than I was paying for just Disney Plus. Okay. I did the same thing with our Apple Music stuff. I just got an Apple One family account. Now the kid's got her own shit, so she doesn't fuck with my music when I'm playing it on my devices. Great stuff. I've just been such a lazy, bougie motherfucker, but now that I got to start saving a little bit, there's some dollars that can be trimmed for sure. So don't be a douche like myself. All right. Into the actual popped. Ooh, SW Props saying In-N-Out fries. We don't get that type of stuff out our way. Nick, you can get Whataburger, right? They got Whataburger in Austin?
Yeah, Whataburger's here. Whataburger's trash now because it got bought by some corporation from Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it like Whataburger, like I used to go to Whataburger like when I would go to fast food, that would be where I would go. But their burgers are awful now. So now I go to like a different local.
Last random question, only because I lived down there. I lived in DFW for about a year and a half. Taco Bueno, does that still exist, or is that in Austin?
Yeah, Taco Bueno is still there. It's still there. They got one that's
I'll never forget Taco Bueno because I got a roofing staple in one of my tacos.
Honestly,
I was like, yay!
Not surprising.
All right, well, it makes sense. Props is saying he was disappointed in Whataburger too when he was in Texas, and now Nick told us why, because change of ownership, probably lost some quality, and it's just another burger factory like McDonald's now.
That's right. If you're in Texas and you want a good burger, go to P. Terry's. P. Terry's is top notch.
Is it fast food or quick food? How would you classify? Is it like a Five Guys sort of?
No, it's drive-through. So it's drive-through, but it's all
P. Terry's. Check that shit out.
Yeah, no, it's all like made to order stuff. Like they don't have a big menu, so it's like cheeseburger. It's like hamburger, cheeseburger.
So it's old school fast food where it's like fucking burgers and fries, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. And then they just added a chicken sandwich, so you can have a chicken sandwich now.
You gotta. I mean, every place has to have a chicken sandwich now. It's kind of a thing. I don't know who kicked that off. If that was Chick-fil-A or Popeyes, but it's like everyone's got their chicken sandwiches now, and they're not bad. Like I hate fast food, but let's be real. Every once in a while, the shit tastes fucking good. It really does. But it makes you feel awful. At least me. Like when I'm done eating fast food, I'm like, wow, that sucks.
It slows you down.
Yeah, dude. It's so good. It's so good. You're like, shoveling that. In 5 minutes after, you're like, your heart rate goes up. Like Nick said, you feel a little slow, a little sleepy, a little dumb. Mm-hmm. P. Terry. So is that like a Southwest chain, or is that just Austin local?
It started in Austin, San Antonio area, and I think I think right now it's just Texas.
Got you. I've literally never heard of that. Never heard of that. Cool.
Yeah, they're starting to pick up some steam because a lot of people are also agreeing with me that Whataburger has gone way downhill. So
does P. Terry like kind of stick to low prices, or is it standard to other fast food where these days it's what $5 to $8 for a sandwich?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're relatively standard. I think it's like $7 or $8 for the combo meal, maybe, and then like if you get a sandwich, it's a little bit lower. So not
there
like
it is. P. Terry, look at this shit. PT,
not outrageous. But
P. Terry's Burger Stand. Oh, dude, this is old school. Look at that. 2005. Okay, 2005 they started.
Yeah, the outside looks good, and it's got that old school feel to it. And yeah, dude, like
is it drive-through only, Nick? Is it like that old school?
You can walk up to the window, but there's no interior. So like you can walk up to like a walk-up window and order, or there's the drive-through.
Ooh, sparkling strawberry lemonade.
Yeah, they
Nutella shakes. Oh, dude,
they do. Hand squeezed. Their lemonade is hand squeezed. Or
oh my goodness, whatever. I love me some lemonade. Who's got good lemonade? That Charlie's Steaks place. I don't know if you have them down there. They're usually in like malls these days, but All right. Maybe we should. Damn, I want some PTs now. Damn it.
They're good. They're good.
All right. Sorry about that, people. Hey, look at this. Props. You'll have to meet Props one day down in San Antone. He's a big Spurs fan. You can show him where to eat. Get some PTs and send it my way.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Real quick pop talk, and then we'll move into some Star Wars news here. But last week I checked out Zoe Kravitz's her first her directorial debut. She also had a writing credit. And is he her fiance, or are they just like common law married?
I think they're together. I don't know if they're married. So they're a couple of some sort.
And I think they even have like a human between them too. Like I think they've procreated. I know he has a human with some other person. Either way, Channing Tatum stars in it. This does have a Star Wars connection, mind you. The other lead, Naomi Ackie, played Janna in the Rise of Skywalker. This movie, I'll tell you what. I have a feeling the MAGAs of the world will probably get upset by it because it is told through a female's perspective. But that's kind of why I appreciate it. It's different. Zoe approaches kind of this mysterious, crazy what the hell's happening genre in a way that definitely has a female slant to it, but like I said, I kind of dig it. I like seeing females kind of like, all right, we got to fucking protect ourselves, kind of being the heroes. But I know for those of you that scream woke and whatnot, this movie's probably not for you. I'm not saying it's actually pretty violent and the subject matter is extremely not woke and fucked up. But like I said, you can tell that it's from a female's perspective. So women out there, I think you're going to love this movie. Enlightened men, you also will appreciate it. It has some issues. I mean, there's definitely some pacing issues. It gets a little, the way she tries to like misdirect things, I think is a little too chaotic. But in terms of the concept, the performances, and the overall production, it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's something you have to go see in the theater. In fact, no one did. This did slightly better than the Crow remake, which absolutely bombed at the box office last weekend. But it's a flick I would add to your. Yeah, I should check this out one day. It's not gonna waste my time. So that is Blink Twice, written and directed by the talented Zoe Hot as Hell Kravitz, Catwoman lady. Thank you. All right. So, what you all been waiting for. I know you were like, oh, Matt, you're going to play Outlaws, blah, 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 Outlaws. Well, there was a point in time where, I wanted to get it early. But like I said, some things have befallen the Haywood household. We got to tighten the belts a little bit for another month or so. So, I passed on getting it early. The privilege of spending, Nick, $40 extra for the cheapest early access version. If you wanted the ultimate version, it was like an extra $50 or $60. And you know what? Upon the public launch yesterday, I'm kind of glad that I am waiting to the official launch on August 30th. So here we go. We are not reviewing it. Neither one of us have played it. And we are not the morons. We are not the trolls of the internet that sit there and comment as experts on something that they have not experienced themselves. That's just stupid to me. All right. I will tell you it's trending fairly positively. It's a 77 on Metacritic, which is good. That's a pretty damn good score. High sevens. It's like a low B type of score if you want to get in the grades, or a high C. But really anything green on Metacritic is typically you should feel somewhat confident about getting. It's not a complete turd. What is concerning, and if you've been watching our show, and anytime we did a segment on this, young Nick was the first one to always pipe in with, but Ubisoft. I mean, this guy's been warning everyone since the day we started talking about this game, and sure as shit, Nick was 100% correct. Some of the biggest knocks on this game, people, are the unfinished feel. There are people out there, Nick. I've seen some people I respect still in gaming journalism. They're like, this game the world is fantastic. I could walk around it for hours. It's exactly what I want as a Star Wars fan. I love this. I love that. But some of the core gameplay is just fucked. Yeah. Like there's so much forced stealth, apparently. You don't really have a choice. Like, you got to stealth too much. The gun battles, they say, get kind of clunky. some of the physics, especially on PS5, are all jacked up where, Kay's floating around trying to choke people out and it just looks jacked. And what's worse of all, I'll pull it up right here. On PS5, it already has a game-breaking bug. So if you played on PS5 early before patch 1.000.002 went out, guess what? Your game's busted and you have to start anew. It doesn't matter if you had 10, 12, 20 hours in on Tuesday. The moment that patch was downloaded to your console, your save is busted. And you have to start again. And I know this is real because those of you that, might fart around in the Star Wars content creator community, if you know Star Wars Sith 66, he's a fairly large presence on Instagram and YouTube. He got it. He got hit by it and he's like, hey, Ubisoft, fuck you. I want my money back. I'm not redoing this shit. And if you think about it, Nick, I think people have a case because these people spent $40 or more to play a game early that's not finished. So
yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane that one, there wasn't just like a base pre-order, like, okay, you pre-order the standard version and you get, a couple days extra. That used to be normal.
Right.
Like it used to be normal to pre-order the standard version, you get access to the game 3 days earlier, whatever. But now they're making you pay extra to do it, and it's breaking. and this is like, it's just unacceptable, especially for a studio the size of Ubisoft. And
they're not the developer. I think Massive developed it. They're the publisher, so they're the ones who are probably pushing the developer. Let's go.
And Massive is owned by Ubisoft, so it's all the same fucking shit corporation anyway.
Right.
But like, and not to like, I'm not trying to be mean to the developers or anything like that, but it really is at this point for a studio and publisher of that size that have made games like The Division, like all of these Assassin's Creed games, to put out a game that you literally didn't finish, that was broken, and then you made people pay extra for, and even though it's broken, you're still like, well, you know what? You chose to pay the money, so fuck you, right? Like, it's just, that's why, dude, it's just,
it's why you've been screaming at the top of your lungs about Ubisoft. I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah. Like, they validated all of your negativity you were throwing at them. And, I wasn't discounting what you were saying. I was just, hey, maybe they figure it out this time. But here's the deal. And I'm going to put some of the onus on gamers. Stop fucking buying Ubisoft games. Okay? They do this shit, Nick, because they know they can. They know they can. They know, they might have a few gamers bitching online, but what the fuck does that matter? The way the news cycle turns these days, who cares? By next week, no one's even going to be talking about this shit. They got their early money. It doesn't matter. So, like young Nick, protest the motherfuckers. That's the only way you can change things in capitalism. You have to stop indulging with your cash.
And here's the thing. I told Matt, I'm not playing this game until it comes out on Steam. Because one, I don't have a full-time job right now, so I'm not shelling out the $70 to get it. And two, on Steam, I was able to sell a Counter-Strike 2 knife skin for $900.
Dude,
so I have
fucking crazy.
$900.
NFT.
Basically. And so I have $900 in account credit, or less than that now because I bought a couple games. But I have a lot of money in account credit on Steam. So I'm not buying a game for full price out of my pocket and until I'm out of this Steam money.
Amen.
And the fact that Ubisoft is not this game isn't on Steam and it's not going to be on Steam for a while is just disappointing. But that's also just Ubisoft's way of doing things. They force you into their own system, and
right, because they have that. They have the, what is it, Ubisoft Plus now?
Yeah, something like that. So it's a trash publisher who really doesn't care about the consumer. They only care about crunching their developers and putting out unfinished products and then saying like, oh, don't worry, we'll fix it with a patch. That's been their go-to gameplay for over 10 years now. So like whenever I see an Ubisoft game, I'm like, yeah, I'll wait a year to play it until they fix everything that's wrong with it, and then I'll go. Like, but I'm not gonna be the one who's like, oh, well, it's a Star Wars game, so I have to play it. I didn't even play the last one. So Like for right now, I'm off of Star Wars games until they can give me something. Until it's like, one, a good game unquestionably that's not broken at launch, and two, is not going to be hard for me to purchase when I just want to play on PC, where you get all of your PC games, which is Steam. I can even get Battlefield on Steam, and that's an EA property, and they have their own EA app that you can download.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that because EA has a similar system to Ubisoft. I was wondering if they let their games go to Steam or if they gate them.
You can get Battlefield 2042 right now. You can get every Battlefield game on Steam right now. Like,
it's weird. It's like, I mean, I'm sure they did their number crunching and they figured out like, hey, if we get people to pay for this service, it's still worth us not selling more units of a game. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
I'm still like, you know, this is a way off example, but I have a very specific strain and brand of medicine I like from the state of Ohio. And it's up in the northern part of the state, and they've actually started restricting sending product down to Columbus. And I'm like, why? It's because they start building their own stores. So instead of having a larger sales footprint, they want to concentrate it locally. And it just, I'll never understand that. To me, moving units is the fundamental way to make cash in business. And I'm going to shut the fuck up because B-Mad just joined the room, throwing that cash around and making it rain. B-Mad saying, as much as I love the universe, this is something I'll wait until it's hugely discounted. I'm having way too much fun playing Black Myth Wukong. Also, what's your thoughts on AC Shadows? Well, really, the Wukong we've both identified as probably a game people might want to check out. Nick is playing it currently. I've seen a lot of favorable things about it outside of like some people out there giving it knocks because it's not diverse enough. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking?
It's all, dude, everything in that game is an animal. I don't
it's
understand
like, what are we
saying
talking about these days? See,
diverse.
That's where like the far left just is like, come on, fucking take your head out of your ass, people. What the freak are you talking about? They're monkey people.
Yeah, it's like
what are they're like walking, talking animals. What are we doing?
Yeah, like I subscribe to the liberal point of view in most of my life, but like it's all like every encounter that I've had so far, I'm fighting a wolf, I'm fighting a bear, I'm fighting a rat, I'm not fighting people. Like
I'm not making this
one
up.
One person right in the beginning.
I think it's Screen Rant. I'm not making it up. Literally, one of their con was lacks diversity and inclusivity. I'm like, holy shit! No wonder these nut jobs on the right lose their brains. Like come on.
It's a weird stance to take for that particular game for sure, because it's like I just don't understand where they want it to be. It's like one of the things that I fought was a giant clay doll, like a giant clay walking baby head. Like it's like, what are you talking about? Like,
but was it a black baby head, Nick, or was it a white baby head?
It was navy blue.
Oh my god,
navy blue. So
how
I don't
dare
know.
they?
Like,
the Navi.
I don't know. But anyway, the gameplay is super fun in Black Myth Wukong. It's like there's difficulty in the boss battles. It's not open world, so it is like a linear action game.
Is it Souls-like, Nick?
So here's what I'll say. I played Jedi Fallen Order. It's similar to that. I find it to be slightly easier than Jedi Fallen Order, at least how far I've gotten so far. I think I've beat. There's a lot of like boss and mini boss battles, so I've probably fought 5 bosses so far in the game, and I've never had more than 4 tries on one of them. So it's not like crazy hard.
But it is like you got to do the old parry counter strike stuff.
It's mostly dodging. It's mostly like dodge, roll out of the way of the attack and stuff like that. I don't even think that there's a block button in the game.
I'm out on this. B-Mad just gave me a hot tip. You can't change difficulty in over 80 bosses. Yeah, no. See ya. Thank you.
I mean, it is.
You guys have fun with that.
It's a long game, but like you fight a boss. Like it's basically like you fight a boss. You walk to the next save point, which takes you 5 minutes. Then you fight the next boss.
Got
It's like it's pretty short.
Listen, I'm gonna be jumping on the Outlaws hand grenade, and again, I'm expecting to enjoy it. I know I'm gonna hate some of the forced stealth, and that's probably gonna be the biggest gripe I'm gonna have. Outside that, some of the positive things I saw about Outlaws, I'm all over it. Like it does sound like they at least nailed the universe and the story, and that's typically what drives me in any medium. Story is king. So I'm gonna check it out, and I'll probably report back next Wednesday on early thoughts. But yeah, it just, it got oobied straight up. I mean, the character models look like shit. They look nothing like we saw in the trailers and whatnot. I mean, here we are.
I mean, and then on AC Shadows, like it seems like I've liked most of the AC games that I've played up to a certain point. Like AC Unity was garbage because it was basically unplayable on any console because of how poorly optimized it was. I tried to play Valhalla and just didn't get into it at all.
Yeah, I was the same on that one. What came out before Valhalla was like the Roman one, wasn't it? No, there was Origins, then the one with the girl after that.
Oh yeah, the Syndicate. There was like Origins, and then Syndicate, which was the one where you could
Odyssey,
play
maybe AC Odyssey.
Odyssey was the German or the Roman one.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the last the last one I've put any amount of time into.
But as with anything Ubisoft related, I'm just not going to play it until it's on sale. Like, it's just like. Right. It's gonna be the same story as Outlaws. They're gonna do an early release. They're gonna charge people early for it. The game's gonna fucking break.
Right.
And then they're gonna have to patch it for 3 months to fix it. And then it's just gonna be over-promised, under-delivered. That's just Ubisoft's way of doing things now. I mean, look at the fucking Skull and Bones game that they put out. They're like, this is a quadruple A game, and they put it out a year ago and it's discounted to $10 because it's trash. Like, that's what they do. They're a trash developer. They don't care about the quality of the games. They only put out half-finished nonsense, and then they just expect players to deal with it until they fix it.
He's got him up against the ropes. Here comes the right, then the left, and the fucking uppercut. Ubisoft's down on the mat. Young Nick wins. Ding, 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 ding.
I mean, it's just bad. It's just bad. And I used to love Ubisoft. Like, Ubisoft games, dude. Like, I loved all the AC games. I loved Assassin's Creed up until Assassin's Creed 3. Like, I played them all. I got one of my first platinum trophy ever was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Like, I loved that game. I mean, even like the Division I've had fun with. I mean, I've had fun with Far Cry games as well. Yeah. But like recently,
you're
they've
right.
just been so bad.
I think that's, and I guess it's kind of good that I've retired from gaming the way I used to. I mean, I was hardcore. I mean, hell, I was in the damn business for 10 years, being forced to play games to review. It just don't have it in me. It's funny. I deleted Swago, right? It freed up a ton of time. But what have I done since? Well, now I'm on Apple One, so I got Apple Arcade, so I grabbed the Lego Star Wars Battles. It's like an RTS tower game. Love it. So I play a shit ton of that, and now I'm playing a bunch I'm playing like a bunch of brain-dead flicky golf games.
But hey, as long as you're having fun with it, I'm fucking, dude.
I'm staying up to like 12:30, like one more match, whang, like flicking it like a dildo. But like you said, I'm enjoying myself. I need to get through FF7 Rebirth though. I love that game. I love Final Fantasy 7. I can only do about an hour, maybe 2 hours max these days on console games. I'm broken. Welcome to 40s. Not quite yet, Nick, but it's real. Definitely over the hill. Things are going down. Brogu, we love you. It's good to see you again. That's a fantastic handle, by the way. And welcome to the club there, Mr. Smith. That's right. McDonald's fries for the win or seasoned. All right. Good stuff there. Yeah, you're right, Bango. Ezio and the Assassin's Creed, that was kind of their...
That was their peak.
Yep. You are not lying there. All right. Well, another little news item before we get into our tier list battle. Remember, I think we got 22 villains to weed through. Are they S tier, D tier? Are they kind of in the middle range? We'll get there, and hopefully we will not have any fights, any verbal exchanges. But we'll rate them out. We put the poll out for the fans. We didn't get as many votes, but still got a good chunk in there. I filled out my own personal one too, so we'll compare those at the end here. God of War games are still pretty good, no doubt. The ones on PS5 are legit.
Santa Monica Studios, they're always solid, at least in my experience.
Yeah, no, God of War is legit. All right, a little news action here, and I kind of dig this because I've always been a fan of this actress. I mean, literally since I was a little kid. I mean, I've been watching her movies since the 80s, and we're talking about Sigourney Weaver. Okay? of Alien fame, but a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, Ghostbusters, another big banger for her. She's awesome. Like I've always loved this actress. She's an Avatar. I mean, she's all over the place. I think she's getting some award or whatever. So Deadline was interviewing her, and they're kind of asking you like, hey, what you getting into these days? What's your next movie? What are you filming? And sure as shit, she just comes out there. I'm playing a role in The Mandalorian Grogu. Okay, I got to meet Grogu for the first time the other day. I'm filming that before I go to London for The Tempest at the end of the year. So cool. I like it. I mean, getting someone of that caliber in Star Wars, a Star Wars movie in the Mandoverse era, I think it's fantastic. I guess to have a little fun, Nick, what type of role do you think she's playing? You don't bring in Sigourney just for like some bullshit. I guess let's start faction wise, bad or good.
I think she's good.
Okay.
I think she's good, and I think she'll probably play a similar role. What I think would be cool is if she played a similar role to Holdo, like a Holdo-esque, like high ranking.
Okay, so you think
official.
she might be like a New Republic officer, or maybe not an officer, but a leader, an ambassador, someone in the upper echelons of the NR.
Yeah, that's how I would peg her. I mean, like her history in movies, like being like one of the first legitimate female action stars, like from the Alien franchise, and like really embodying that like sense of badassness throughout her career. I think that they should lean into that for sure. I think that they should use that, like her career highlights and like what she's really excelled in, and like put her in a role that will allow her to do that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think people in the chat here, Brogu here, and she might be a villain. Bat saying she'd be a good villain, and I agree with that. I think that'd be a nice little change for Sigourney, because we're not. I mean, I guess she's played like some angry moms in some show, like that movie she did with Jennifer Love Hewitt, but she's never. I don't think she's ever really been like a bad.
No, I don't think she's been like a full villain before.
Listen, hey, be mad. I don't hate that. The only problem is they would give that to Emily Swallow, who's been playing the Armorer since day one. They're not going to rob her of an unhelmeting moment. She's championed that character at cons. Just ask our buddy SW Props. I mean, the Armorer is Emily Swallow.
If they did that, I don't even know what to say. Like that, you would have to jump on Dave and John to no end if they
that would be
made the face of the Armor.
That'd be pretty fucked up. That'd be pretty fucked up. Like I said, I don't hate it. Be mad. I actually think it'd be great, and it makes a ton of sense. But she's been championing that role since 2019. That is her character. It's different though. The Pedro thing, I know it sounds weird, but it's just different. He's already had the mask off. You got to keep Mando as Pedro with the mask off. I see your point, but it's not going to happen. They would let Emily get that shot, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I do think she is going to be someone in power for sure, and I think I'm going to go with the Fandos here. I would rather her play a villain. Maybe she's in the Remnant, right? Maybe she's working with someone on the Shadow Council. Maybe she's the big bad that Din is tasked with taking out. That would be pretty. It'd be pretty intriguing to see Sigourney playing like a real bad.
I mean, she's got so much range and ability that like you can place her anywhere. I think another cool option for her is to make her like one of the head honcho pirates, like just like a neutral faction that's not like fighting for.
Well, that's a BMAD just shot up Pirate Queen, so you're not far off from what the fans are thinking.
I think that she could excel in a role like that too, where it's like, look, like almost like a scoundrel. Like, look, if you want, like, you want me to fight for you? Yeah. Where's the credits? I'll fight for whoever's got the credits, baby.
I like that because I think you guys are on to something there. Sigourney as a scoundrel type, because that would kind of embrace her. I mean, let's be real. She kind of is the first ever legit female action star, right? Yeah. I mean, before that, there was like Barbarella, and that was just like sexploitation. So I kind of dig that. I would like her kind of having a little edge to her. more than just, a wise voice. It would be nice to see her, whip out a blaster, talk some smack, throw down some spotchka. All right. Dig it. So, hey, that's good. I mean, that just means, listen, the movie, it's progressing. They're filming. They're bringing in new talent. I've got no complaints or concerns with this casting here. So kudos to them.
Yeah, no, big win for the movie for sure.
Yeah, and I think this was Bespin Bulletin. I don't know if it came from someone, but they have said it's pretty much confirmed that we are going to see Pedro out of helmet in the movie. They are going to bring him in towards the end of filming once he's freed up from Toulouse 2 to whip off that helmet and don the Beskar for a few shots. Yeah, right, Nick. I mean, he has to show the face again. It's been a few years at this point. The last time we saw him was when he said goodbye to his ward.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is Pedro 100% wrote that in the contract. He's like, I ain't in this movie if my face ain't in this movie.
Well,
like,
because they could have shortchanged him as a voice actor only. Yeah,
exactly.
Nick is right. Going into this whole thing, he pretty much said like, yo, you're seeing my face, so I can be credited as an actual actor, and get the cashola that actors get over voice actors.
That is 100%.
Yeah,
you wouldn't let that
we do have to let's just honor Pedro. I mean. Being an American, I don't think most of us knew of this guy until he showed up as Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones. And then we were like, okay. Like, I dig it. And then he started getting more little roles from there. He's a bad guy in Kingsman. Yeah, Narcos. Did some other stuff. And then obviously he gets the little gig in The Mandalorian. And here we go. That thing kind of cemented his rocket ship rise. Another guy that's really kicking ass right now is what's this Glenn Powell.
Yeah, Glenn Powell's everywhere.
He seems to be like a new Tom Cruise type where you're going to go watch a movie because he's in it. And I'm kind of in that camp because Twisters was fucking awesome. It really was one of the best movies of the summer. And his character's pretty fun. Yeah, Pedro is clearing some cash. There's no doubt about it. All right, good stuff there. So I think it's about time for a little tier rank. Here we go. Villains and it's gone. Like it's an empty URL. Oh, I love the internet. Hold on, we can get back to it here. Tier maker, my account. And there's the villains board. Okay, let's get it in presentation mode because if not, this site, it has ad abuse. I don't blame him. You got to make a buck if you got a popular website these days, but holy shit on the pop-up ads there, tier maker.
There's a lot. All
right, our board is up. Like I said, we had the fans do it too. We will check out their board at the end to kind of compare and contrast. You can also look at my personal list. But we have, I believe, 22 villains to go through. We stuck to the Skywalker saga, essentially. So prequels up through all the animations, up through I'd say Ahsoka season 2, or really even the sequel trilogy.
All the way through the sequel trilogy. Yeah. So there is no play. We had conversations. There's no Plagueis. There's no Bane. What was the other one that we knocked off too, Matt? We knocked off one other. Plagueis and Bane for sure.
It was like a week. We were kind of weak on them. I forget who it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been like a Captain Phasma type. I was like, eh.
Yeah. So the reason that we didn't do Bane or Plagueis is because there's just not enough canon content material out there for them. Like, we had a little bit of Plagueis in the Acolyte, as you know, but other than that, in canon, at least in terms of like visual representation of canon, all we have is the Acolyte and that little speech from Palpatine in the Opera House. And then for Bane, in canon material, all we have is one scene from the
Clone Wars.
Yeah,
he pops out the Yoda, I think.
Yeah, so we figured that we would use people with established history and canon, and then we can be more. We can have a better idea of what their powers and all their deeds are.
They're more prominent. More people will know about them. I mean, there were so many other villain lists on this tier maker site. I mean, some of them had like 80 characters. It's like, Piet, Veers, that schmo that was in Fallen Order, or that guy that was in Battlefront. It's like, okay, no.
Yeah, it's like you get too far. The audience doesn't understand who some of these people are. I mean, fucking Piet and Nita and all these people die in like 5 minutes after they're seen on screen sometimes.
They're fun, but they just didn't make sense for this list. Same thing there, Bat with Phasma. Like, I mean, honestly, what does she really do? Not much. So, we left her off. But we do have, I think we got 22 of the big ones here, the ones that would stand out to most. Definitely hardcore fans, and I'd say even casuals would probably be able to pick up on these. So like last week when we rated the battles, we're just going to go through the list, battle it out, have a conversation about them. If you weren't here earlier, I do have a few points that I think we can consider if it comes into debates. Their level of power. It could be their physical power. It could be their power over people. Are they the head of a state, the head of a planet, the head of the galaxy? Their kill count, how good were they at strategy and tactics, and then just their overall evilness, okay? And, that might sway votes here or there if we need to come to those points to kind of resolve things. But here we go. I guess we'll just go through order, even though it kind of sucks because we got one of the biggest of the bads right there to start. But, we can kind of ease into things, Nick, with who I consider to be one of the most masterful villains in all of cinema history, definitely in Star Wars. Emperor Palpatine, a.k.a. Darth Sidious, a.k.a. our boy Sheev.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are some unquestionable S tiers in this list. Not many, but I think that one of them is definitely Palpatine. If we look at just effectiveness of his plan, his long game plan, his ability to manipulate even those closest to him that didn't know that he was a Sith Lord, and his ability to see a plan that was over 1,000 years in the making through to fruition.
Damn Skip.
And even beyond death now through the sequel trilogy, I think it's unquestionable that Palpatine is S tier.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he has unlimited power, so we know that. That's right. He's definitely got maybe not a lot of direct kills if you think about it, but his orders have led to the death of billions.
Yes.
His strategy and tactics, as Nick said, are flawless. The dude literally doesn't lose these days until Rey zaps him into oblivion in Tross. Okay? I mean, he had like 130 plus year win streak. Yeah, there might have been some bumps in the road, but really, if you think about it, the New Republic was a failed experiment and went to piss, and the First Order was right back kind of screwing with things not too many years beyond his death. So, yeah, there in his pure evilness, let's be real. I mean, he preyed upon a child and turned him into a mass murderer. All right? He started a galactic civil war. He got Jedi killed. He got Jedi to leave their order. I mean, he is the epitome of evil. Dude, Nick is right.
This guy's killed Jedi and Sith indiscriminately.
Correct.
He goes out and just fucking straight up nukes Savage Opress.
Yeah.
And like, no problem. 2-on-1 V Maul and Savage, he just takes him out. Like, no sweat.
You could argue Palpatine is on his own tier. He's like God tier, honestly. So
like Palpatine tier, only him. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like Mariana's saying here, it's hard to lose when you play both sides. It's like it's that masterful manipulation where it's like you have somebody like Padme Amidala, who is like one of the paragons of good and the light side in Star Wars, fooled from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like she was 100% convinced that this guy, Sheev Palpatine, was one of the good ones and championed him taking over the Senate and becoming chancellor.
He was sitting 5 feet from the Jedi Council in every meeting they had, and they had no clue.
Yeah. I mean, it's like his purely based off of his manipulation would put him in S tier, but also like, if you see him like get down and dirty, and you only do see it a couple times, like you see it in ROTS and then you see it in Clone Wars, he can hang.
Yes,
he can hold his own.
All right, good questions here from B-Mad. What is Palpatine's biggest fumble? I'll tell you, it was
hubris.
Yeah, it was thinking that he had complete control over Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. I'd say that was his ultimate fumble, because he never thought that pussy would turn on him, and his son was able to convince him to do so. So that was his biggest fumble. And like Nick said, just like the Jedi, hubris would be his biggest flaw. Good stuff there.
So, there we go.
All right. Easy one there. All right, up next, the Grand Inquisitor. Okay, so he's got some extended life thanks to the Kenobi series. We saw what he did in that. Pretty ruthless going there on Tatooine and kind of flushing people out. Definitely a hard ass. He has force power, clearly. He's definitely got a lot of kills, Jedi kills at that. Strategy and tactics, he kind of pulled one over on Reva there towards the end, so not too bad. And when you consider that he's a fallen Jedi, he's definitely got some evilness in him, but he doesn't have as large of a sample size as, say, a Vader or a Palpatine or even a Dooku. So while, he's evil, he stands out. He had that spinny blade we got to see for the first time. He was the main villain in Rebels Season 1. I still have a hard time rating him much higher than a C, but I would like to hear what you have to say to see if we can bump him up or maybe take him down another notch. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of a similar mindset to you that he falls somewhere in the middle tiers. And by middle, I mean B, C tier.
He's got a great voice, by the way, both live action and in animation with Jason Isaacs.
I mean, great voice, great portrayal in both live action and in animation, if you ask me.
Even with a smaller dome, he was still fine in Kenobi.
Yes, we know. His head is not as long as it was before, but it's okay. So when I did my tier build out, I initially put him in B, but I was like low B area, like B minus.
Okay.
Just because of what you were mentioning, like we don't have as much on him as we do others. We also don't ultimately, like, did he go out in like some sort of like it's not like he was taken out by, Luke Skywalker or something like that.
He lost to Kanan and sort of Ezra, and he more or less was just kind of offed himself. He's like, I'm out of here. Yeah. It's better to die than fail in front of Vader, so I'm good.
Yeah, he's like he just kind of took the easy way out.
And actually, Vader doesn't let him fully die because of that. He actually keeps his soul tortured in the comics. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He like tethers him to that temple or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, my initial thought was like low B, high C. So I'm comfortable with C tier here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, power, he's mid. He's basic power, I would say. Kills up there on kills. The strategy and tactics low. Evilness, I'd say high. I'm liking C. He's going C. All right.
Let's do C.
Okay, here we go.
This is going to be so fun.
Boba Fett. But notice the imagery I used. This is not Book of Boba Fett. This is not Reformed Fett. This is not Daimyo. This is who we affectionately call around these parts of the galaxy Bozo Fett, okay? I'm talking Boba Fett when he was a true villain, the original trilogy. I'm not even going to start because you know where I'm at on this trash bag. So, Nick, make your case.
Yes. Okay. This is purely, like we're saying, this is OT Fett. This doesn't even include Clone Wars. Like, right? We're not thinking, I mean, like, but even like Kid Fett's not going to make him much better.
Exactly.
So let's look at what we got here, right? In the movies, he successfully kidnaps Han Solo. Like
using the Empire's help.
Using the Empire's help, carbonite frozen, got him, sends him off to Jabba. When we see him in combat, he looks inept.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Loses to a blind guy.
Yeah, completely inept. And it is only after that he really goes on his redemption journey. But as we've said, this is OT Fett.
Yeah, when he was truly villainous.
Yeah, when he was a real villain. Like, this is villains here. So I think he's probably D tier.
Yeah.
like I just don't know. I don't know if you can give me an argument where he is anything higher than D tier. Even from the prequel trilogy, like he's a kid. He doesn't do shit. He's just sitting in the cockpit with his dad. Like in the Clone Wars, he's got some moments, but it's not anything that's noteworthy. And then in the movies and the OT movies, he's like,
he looks like an idiot.
He physically looks cool, but when it comes to the down and dirty action, he just doesn't have it. So I feel like he is D tier.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not gonna, you don't have to convince me of that. I mean, he was born a D tier. He does not increase tiers until the Book of Boba Fett, even though he technically wasn't the Boba people were expecting. He was at least a more fleshed out, interesting character in the Book of Boba Fett. In the OT, as I said many times, he is 100% a bozo. He dies like a bozo. He should have stayed dead like a bozo. So. I think he's probably the most D tier motherfucker on this list. The only thing he has going for him, like Nick said, is his look. He looks awesome, and that's why I own too many versions of him in collectible form. But in terms of the character, from what we got in canon, not all your books and bullshit, straight D. Sorry, Fett family. Sorry, Mandalorian lovers. Remember, he doesn't want to be a Mandalorian anyway. So his power, mid, kills, at least what we saw, 0. Strategy and tactics, horrible. Needs the Empire to do everything for him. Pure evilness. He'll do whatever for a buck. So is he even evil? Who knows? Yeah, he's a D tier. He is a D tier. Okay, sticking with the scoundrel bounty hunter types, we have Cad Bane. And unlike Boba Fett, Cad Bane remains a villain throughout his entire life, all the way up until he supposedly dies by Boba's hands in the Book of Boba Fett. If we remember, Cad Bane, he did some really terrible shit in the Clone Wars and in Bad Batch now, and really even all the way up into the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, he broke into the Jedi Temple and was able to steal stuff. He actually survived an encounter with Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi. He ain't half bad. I mean, he's who the Empire relied on to round up Force users for testing in Tantus. So he's kind of got a little more chutzpah, as they say. So, Nick, what are you thinking about Mr. Cad Bane here? And I don't think we have to classify Clone Wars Bane or Book of Boba Bane. He's the same throughout. He'll do anything for a buck, and he is a bad dude. Yeah.
I mean, he's good at his job, which is something that you could argue about Boba. Like, I have him solidly in B tier. I have him in B. He is, like you said, he was a go-to bounty hunter for the Empire. He's ruthless. He's held his own against top-tier opponents, Bad Batch.
Yep.
Obi and Quinlan,
shot Hunter.
like
he beat Hunter in a duel.
Yeah, he did. And like you said, I think the thing that really tips it over for me is his infiltration of the Jedi Temple, for sure. Like that like, if somebody hires you to do that, it's one thing. But if you can do it and then make it out,
what does he steal, Nick? Is it a holocron? I know he jacked something for Palpatine.
Yeah, I think it was a holocron. It's been a while since I've seen that arc, so I don't remember fully, and I'm sure that people in the chat have a better idea, so let us know. But yeah, I mean, like, he infiltrates the Jedi Temple, steals something of great value, and gets out unscathed. Mm-hmm. So I say that's a solid B tier.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you made good arguments. The live streamers here, they're pretty solidly set on B tier as well. I think he does got a decent amount of physical power. Like you said, we've seen him go up against Jedi and actually live and sometimes get the best of them. We know he's got the kills, and sometimes he's killing the parents of little kids, what we saw in Bad Batch. So he's definitely pure evil. We could potentially question his strategy and tactics, as some people in the chat are mentioning. Some people did get one over on him. But I'm with you. I mean, he makes Bozo Fett look incompetent with a capital I. So I'm comfortable putting him in the B tier as well.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. We got a good distribution happening right here now so far.
And he looks fucking cool. I mean, let's be real. He's got the cowboy hat. He put the metal plates on it so Boba doesn't shoot him in the head anymore. And he's got that great voice, that almost like robotic, low, gravelly type of voice. Okay, so if you're just joining in here, we are having a tier list battle for Star Wars' 22 top villains of the Skywalker saga. So far, we have Emperor Palpatine S tier. A tier is completely vacant at this time. We got Cad Bane clocking in as a B tier, Grand Inquisitor C tier, and our friend of the show, of the program, Bozo Fett, holding it down in D tier. Yeah, get some, Bozo. We love you, buddy. All right, interesting character here, Nick, and I'll kind of set him up and see where you go. But next up, we have Count Dooku. Started on the light side, fell to the dark because, hey, listen, his order wasn't listening to him. He thought he could get shit done going the other way, and obviously not the best choice. He ended up killing Master Yaddle, which is fairly impressive. We've seen what he can do with other impressive Jedi like young Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He definitely kicked their asses in Attack of the Clones. They might have got the best of him in Revenge of the Sith, but he's pretty badass. I mean, he was instrumental in kicking off the Clone Wars. He was Palpatine's second-hand man and really got a lot of the evil shit and war stuff done. And he was discarded for something better, but he definitely has power. I mean, he's a count, for Christ's sake, so he's got actual political clout and force power. We know he's got kills under his belt. I mean, hell, he was a part of the Battle of Dathomir, that genocide. Yeah, exactly. He's killed other Jedi Masters. I mean, he's pretty legit. You got to argue his strategy and tactics aren't half bad either, because he kind of convinced the Republic to get into a war. Yep. And his fall from light and his embrace of the dark, he's kind of evil too, Nick. So he hits a lot of the marks. Doesn't get a ton of screen time in the films, more fleshed out in the Clone Wars. He's kind of a main in the Clone Wars, does a lot of damage. So yeah, he's pretty bad. So what say you? Where are you going to tier this guy at?
I'm like we're taking Clone Wars into account here for this character, so that adds a lot of breadth to his character arc. Like if it was just the movies, you could have arguments for a lower tier. But because we're taking into account Clone Wars and specifically within Clone Wars, like you were mentioning, like Battle of Dathomir is something that is just like is abhorrent. Like
they genocide a people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's full on genocide, and this isn't like they didn't poison these people. Like they went through and they were cutting these people down.
Old school war. Let's line the line and charge. I mean, it's literally like Civil War shit.
Yeah, I mean, bested Obi-Wan and Anakin back-to-back battles in AOT.
Held his own with Yoda and was able to distract him enough to get away.
Yeah, exactly. Like you mentioned, killed Yaddle as well. I mean, I'm leaning A tier, like A to B. Like I initially, when I tiered it, I put him in B, but after like really thinking on it for a while, like he really is like he was the face of the CIS war behind Palpatine, obviously, but like was essentially running war efforts for the CIS.
Yes, while
also being Palpatine's apprentice and doing a pretty good job mentally working over both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, and then also defeating them in battle straight up. Like he could have killed Obi-Wan on like for sure. Like he could have, but he didn't. And the only reason that I was thinking about putting him in B is because there was, even in those movies, like even in AOTC, there was still a little light in him, right? Like he's got Obi-Wan trapped and he's telling Obi-Wan to his face, it's like, listen to me. There is a Sith master that is the head of the Republic government. Mm-hmm. Like, just believe me. Like, he's trying to help Obi-Wan, even though he's a Sith.
I think like, that plays into his mastery of strategy and tactics.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he is, at the same time, like, he knows Obi-Wan's not going to believe him, but just planting this seed is enough to fuck with him mentally. So I think he's A tier, given everything that we've discussed about his history. That's where I would drop.
I like
low A tier.
Mariana here. Yoda knows everything. He probably covered that up too. Yoda should be on this ranking.
Maybe so.
He is.
Maybe so.
He is the true master. If you think about it, he's the one that let Palpatine rise, Dooku do his thing, all on his watch. He's like, hey, it's all good. It's all part of my plan.
Yeah, it's Palpatine tier, then Yoda tier, then S tier, and then down from there.
Yeah, man. You even convinced some people in the chat who were, low B, C. You got him up to a B plus. I forget kind of where I put him, but just knowing his impact on the Clone Wars alone, and how he, was not the first, but maybe one of the most important fallen Jedi. Yeah. I do think he earns an A tier. I do. I really do. And not so much from the live action movies, but most definitely from the Clone Wars, because as you said, he is the CIS. He is their leader, more or less, the head of that council. So yeah, I think he wreaked a lot of shit on the galaxy before he died. So
yeah, absolutely.
Like on a galactic level, all right? Cad Bane, if we're putting him at B, locally, bounty hunter circles, he's fucking shit up. Dooku, like Palpatine, we're talking galactic level carnage and distress and oppression. So he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was going to be another one.
Dooku ran a slave trade, guys. Yep, you got that too.
Like,
I remember
Dooku was fucked up. Dooku was fully fucked up, dude.
And he was good. Like he wasn't. He used to be a good guy, so that just shows he was even more warped. All right, we've got him. I think he's very solid in A. I like that. Okay. We talked about his clone son. Now it's time to talk about the guy that is the essentially the father of the clones. He's Rex's dad, Jesse's dad, you name it. Jango Fett. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I know he was very short-lived. We just had him in AOTC, but if you think about his impact on the galaxy through his time, pretty major. He spawned millions of Mandalorian clones that were quite formidable in battle and continued to be even years after their time was up. We know he's pretty decent at killing. He's Mandalorian. He's trained, ready to rock. I would most definitely question his strategy and tactics. I think they're quite garbage, to be honest with you, because he's got to use Zam Wessel to try to kill Padme. He can't just do it himself. It's so dumb. I know there's a meme out there where it's like they just kind of play on that in Attack of the Clones where he could have just shot her. He's like, no, I'm going to ask you. And then she's like, no, I'm going to ask a worm. And the worm's like, no, I'm going to ask a droid, and so on and so forth. Listen, looks cool, great weapons. He gave us the seismic charge, which we are forever grateful for Jango for that. But when it came to getting down to it, he killed one Jedi. He got a few pops off there in the arena, but once he hit the floor and came face to face with Mace Windu, his life was ended pretty quickly. So Nick, what are we thinking about Jango? Some pretty major villainous accomplishments, but he lacks in some other areas, I think. Yeah,
he is. Here's what I'll say. I'm leaning C, and the only reason that I'm leaning C is because he put up a pretty good fight against Obi-Wan on Kamino.
True.
Like he gave Obi-Wan a run for his money.
Yeah, his power level is high. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So the thing, but like you said, this is another one where canon content around Jango Fett is a little lacking, right? Like we don't have, obviously we don't have much of him in Clone Wars because he's already dead. So you don't have anything for him there. And then pre-prequel trilogy, pre-episode 1, there's almost no content like that like canon content that really exists there outside of novelizations. And I'm not sure if there is a full canon novelization about Jango Fett's history.
I don't think so.
But here's what I'll say. Like on like the spawning of the clone things, it's just so unclear whether that was an evil action or not, right? Because we don't know what information he was given. Like, we don't know how he was approached about it, because it could have been like, hey, I work for the Jedi Order and we're going to try to make a race of clones.
Darth Tyrannus.
We don't know how those conversations went, or even if they were conversations, if he was just like, hey, like we're doing clone experimentation over here. We'll pay you 10 grand to do it. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Whatever. Like,
I think you're onto something. I don't think Jango agreed to be the cloning template because he wanted to get back at the galaxy or the Jedi. Yeah. I think it was, I'm a fucking bounty hunter. This is a payday, and I get a son.
Yeah. So I don't rank that in terms of like, oh my God, what an evil action. He spawned all of the clone troopers, which then turned against the Jedi Order.
I can get down with that.
So I'm leaning C because of the battle with Obi-Wan. The quick shots he got off in the Geonosis arena, but like you said, he hits the ground. And granted, look, his jetpack was fucked because he got rolled by the
Reek.
By the Reek, yeah, which I knew was one of them, but I couldn't remember which one it was. By the Reek, so he couldn't fly away from Mace Windu. But like, he really did go out just like deer in the headlights. Like, oh, I'm just gonna shoot straight ahead of me and then get my head cut off. And then that was kind of it. So I'm C tier. I'm C tier on this one.
Have you seen it's supposedly how it was shot, but the actual death of Jango Fett? I still can't tell if this is people just janking the footage, but there is a gnarlier death where Mace pretty much cuts him to pieces. Like arms go off. I think he gets a leg and then the head.
Dude, I would have really liked to see that, and I don't doubt it, given what Nick Gillard told us.
If anyone knows what I'm talking about and you're in the live stream, could you kick the link up for us? The unedited Jango Fett death. I'm sure, like, if you're a nut like me, you probably know what I'm talking about. So anyways, if anyone can link that for us, we'll try to pull it up here so Nick can see it. Yeah, the deleted scene. That's what I mean. I don't know if it's deleted or not. Like, it looks pretty hardcore for even George Lucas to kind of cook up. Or like you said, maybe Gillard did it and showed it to George, and George was like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, we're not going for rated R here, bro.
Yeah, too far. But honestly, like, for a character of that magnitude, he did feel like, of the magnitude that is literally galaxy changing, like his character does change the galaxy,
of course,
but it wasn't like in an intentional way. It's not like he was like, I'm going to make all these clones and these clones are going to overthrow the government. Like that wasn't his plan.
Wasn't his plan, but he took part in evilness, if you will. He aided and abetted it's something that was fairly shady. But like I said, I mean, I think his strategy and tactics are trash, because if it weren't for him, Obi-Wan would have never traced him back to Kamino and even discovered that a clone army was. So he's pretty sloppy, because he just would not kill Padme himself. He had to pass it off to this person, who passed it off to a fucking worm, who then in turn got caught by the Jedi, and they were able to glean some info. So I'm with you, man, and really what we're getting from the fandos here in the live stream. Remember, if you want to join live stream Wednesdays, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show, 5 p. Eastern, as close as we can get. Come have some fun with the B-Mads, the Bats, and the Marianas of the world here. All right, I'm with you, man. C tier for Jango. He's not a bozo like his son, but he's also not that fresh.
Yep.
All right.
No freshness.
Okay, so he cuts his hand, arm, and then the head off. That's what happens in the supposed deleted scene. All right, this could be a quick one. He is a villain, all right? He's a villain. He plays a major role in Palpatine's endgame. Now, he ultimately gets taken out at the end because we can't have any loose threads. But, I mean, this character definitely had a major role in helping Palpatine get to the finish line. And I'm talking about the sometimes racist sounding Newt Gunray.
If there was an F tier, I would put him in F tier.
Not Newt. Newt was on our show, Nick. Come on.
I know, but I do think that Newt was a patsy. Like, Newt ultimately was like, oh yeah, we're in this together. The CIS versus the Republic. We're gonna fucking take these guys out. Like, I know I'm working with a Sith Lord and I'm afraid of him, but you know what? We're still gonna do it. And then he just gets unceremoniously sliced by Vader, Anakin Skywalker at the end of Rots, and even the first time that we see him, he's like, He's like, uh-oh, like the Jedi are here. Like, what are we going to do? Like, try to gas them and let me run away. Like, he was definitely used for his influential ability, like his influence as
and the greed.
The head of the Trade Federation, starting that blockade of Naboo and really like accelerating the war of the CIS versus the Republic. But outside of that, like he's purely just a cog in this machine.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's the first pawn really of Palpatine's master plan, and he played his pawn role quite well. With the Trade Federation blockade, which got Padme involved, which they all wanted. They really wanted her dead, but hey, we needed to make the Skywalker twins so she could not die.
He couldn't even hold the fucking castle.
Yeah,
he had the castle.
He took Naboo. Listen, I mean, he did take the planet for a little bit, but once a small ragtag group of Amidalians came back, that was pretty much all it took. 2 Jedi. Some Gungans out in the grass field, and then literally Panaka and Padme and a few no-named Naboo soldiers were able to retake the castle. So yeah, man. I mean, listen, he is kind of a fun character because of how goofy he is and the way he was made to talk. And like you said, I mean, he's just a major pawn, patsy type. He's hard to forget, though. He really is hard to forget. Like, Newt just stands out. He's always going to stand out to me. I mean, he's one of the first characters you saw in The Phantom Menace. You're like, holy shit, what's going on with this guy? I've never seen these Nemoidians, as George is calling them. But in terms of straight villainy and what he achieved, I'm with you, man. He's down there with the Bozo, I think. Bozo's getting some company down the D tier. There you go, Newt. Right next to our guy in green. Have fun. What happened to Techno Union guy? I mean, listen, Wat Tambor just really not that huge of a presence.
Didn't have enough.
I mean, Newt was at least in the entire prequel trilogy, but Wat, a little more in the Clone Wars. Newt definitely had a more prominent role. I mean, it was like Dooku was the real head of the CIS, and then Newt, everyone else was kind of under them. All right. So sticking in that era, we've been kind of playing around in the prequel era, and that's quite all right. We love the prequels these days, and we've got a general to rank here, and he's pretty bad, right? He's got the power, both physically and politically. Kills aplenty. I mean, this guy just if you want to talk about his spaceship kills, he's got hundreds of thousands. I definitely, he's pretty damn good at strategy and tactics. And he is definitely evil and jacked in the head. And we are talking about the prototype for an organic being turned into more machine than man, General Grievous.
Grievous is a tough one. Grievous is a tough one because he is vicious, unquestionably. Like, you see his lightsaber collection, which is made from all of the Jedi kills that he has, right? Like, this dude is spinning 4, but also still has 6 other lightsabers like hidden in his cloak. So this dude has multiple Jedi kills. This guy gave Obi-Wan Kenobi like the best fight that we probably saw other than Anakin in the prequels, and technically had him beat. And if it wasn't for that, the Force in that pistol, like Obi-Wan's just toast, or he's like at the very least out of that fight. We like in deleted scene, he kills Shak Ti. Like, there's a lot of just
participated in the Dathomirian genocide.
Yeah, like a lot of really evil deeds, which is leaning me like my initial thought here was like mid A tier because just because of the viciousness and the absolute terror that he was for anybody who was fighting him, his very odd battle tactics. I mean, he was able to successfully, along with Dooku, successfully kidnap Emperor Palpatine from Coruscant, which granted, yes, there was probably inside help there. Yes, we know, but still.
Palpatine, like I'm over here, guys.
It's like, hey,
you're going to find me over here at 3:00.
Yeah. But still, like, we didn't see the circumstances of it. We didn't know if he had to fight through any Jedi along the way from stealing. So, like, all we know is that he went to Coruscant, he kidnapped the Chancellor, and he fucking got the fuck out of there. So
well, I mean, if we go back to I know it's technically not canon, but if you go back to the Gennady Clone Wars, yeah. I mean, Grievous he kills Shaggy Jedi within like one of the first episodes, and like you said, I don't think he doesn't kill Shaq in that, but we see him get Palpatine. We see why he has the cough by the time we get to Revenge of the Sith.
Mace gave him that cough. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know people in the chat are saying C tier, B tier.
I mean, I would be okay with B, but I don't see. There's no way he's C tier.
No. And
like just.
Honestly, man, I think I'm with you on A. And listen, I know it's not part of the criterion, but he looks fucking awesome. I mean, he
does look awesome.
One of the cooler looking characters that George had his team dream up. I'm looking at my 1/6 scale right now. Sure, you could, he's a little bit of a clown, but he just looks so imposing. Looks so cool. He's got the power. He's got the kills. He's got the strat and tactics, and he's definitely evil. I think A tier is a very fair ranking. For the general.
Let's put this into perspective too. Like, we're talking about all these Jedi kills. Like, the most impressive part of the Jedi kills is like, he's got 4 arms, but he can't use the Force.
Correct.
Like, he has no Force ability.
So well, it goes to show you how pussy Jedi are, because they could have just went and squished his meat bag in 2 seconds, but they don't do that. So
granted, it may be creative licensing, because they're not going to let somebody just snap his neck with the Force, but still, like, this guy killed dozens of Jedi with no Force ability, and he's got 4 arms, but like a lot of Jedi had fucked up like physiology and stuff like that. So
I mean, hell, they could float lightsabers around their body if they wanted to, and just kind of have like a spinning blade of death. So no, I mean, I think GG firmly earns A tier. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too.
Hey, now there, Brandon Trin. Good to see you. Hello there. Hello there. Hello there. All right, here we go. This is going to be an interesting one, because I know Nick is going to have like an internal conflict here in separating the book man from the show man. I just ask you to, remember him a bit in Rebels, and don't hold too much against him from Ahsoka. I still think he was fine, but I know you have very strong opinions on this guy. If you're new here, you probably don't know what we're talking about. If you're a longtime fan, you definitely know who we're talking about, because young Nick was none too pleased with his live action debut. This guy, he's got power, he's got kills. Some may say he is the best strategy and tactician the Empire ever had. I'm not so sure on the evilness, though. We're talking about the man in blue, Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah. So we can't. So this is what we're talking canon content here. So all of the original Zahn books are off the table. You have the new Zahn books, which still do paint him in a very good light. The Clone Wars or the Rebels portrayal of Thrawn is, in my opinion, again, like this is all an opinion based tier system, so everybody's gonna have their own opinions. The Rebels version of Thrawn is much better than what we saw in Ahsoka, in my opinion. And the Ahsoka version of Thrawn, I felt really shortchanged by. I just didn't think that they amplified his intelligence enough, and I didn't feel like they really, like, if you were to judge him tactically off of what was happening in Ahsoka alone, I would say that it would be unimpressive.
He made it back and stranded Ahsoka and Sabine.
He made it back, but in the most fumbling, bumbling, idiotic, like confused way ever. Like,
fuck Ahsoka Thrawn.
I've never seen a character. I've never seen Thrawn in any other medium, whether it be books or TV. Or animated shows, look as confused as he did as many times as he did in Ahsoka. It was actually really pissed me off how bad that they really wronged him in there.
They did your guy wrong.
So I'm putting him B tier based off of the canon portrayals that we've seen thus far. He was outsmarted by multiple Rebel Alliance and light side foes, like unquestionably. Like he was outsmarted and out tacticked. And he's just not a combat guy. Like at least from the Ahsoka side of things. In Rebels, his combat prowess was actually not bad. He stood up to Ezra in hand-to-hand combat, and held his own, I guess you could say. But my feelings on him are B tier, and that could move based off of what we see in the Mando crossover film, Ahsoka season 2, or whatever content.
Well, yeah, because it does seem like they are trying to revive some of his heir to the Empire threads, for sure. The design books you said that are no longer canon. So, I guess time will tell. You know what, man? I can't really argue against Thrawn in B tier. I really can't. I mean, obviously, I was never a huge Thrawn homer. I don't read. I'm stupid. So I only know of him from Rebels and Ahsoka. I was much softer on him in Ahsoka than young Nick and a lot of people were, just because he seemed fine to me. I thought Lars did a great job and he looked cool. And if anything, he got a bunch of zombie-ass troopers to chant his name like a badass. So I'm always appreciative when you can kind of get a cult following like he had. But as Nick said, even if we go to Rebels Thrawn, who was definitely a little more imposing, seemed more like the book Thrawn, he got bested by a ragtag group of rebels. Most notably probably a 16, 17-year-old literally took him off the playing field for close to a decade. So how smart are you really, Mr. Thrawn? So power, like you said, he had political power. He was a Grand Admiral, tons of respect within the Navy there. But physical power, he could definitely, do some fisticuffs. That's about it. No force, nothing like that. We just, based on the books, he's definitely going to get a bump in strategy and tactics because that's kind of how he was positioned. But I honestly, Nick, and you know better than me, I don't think Thrawn is really pure evil. I think he's kind of justifying his means to his own end, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's like Divided said in the chat, like Thrawn in the books is S tier. Everywhere else he's kind of meh. And in the books it is established that like, hey, look, I'm working for you guys. I'm Grand Admiral of this army or whatever, but like I have my own agenda. Like my agenda is that I will help the Empire with their goals in exchange for the Empire helping me defend the Chiss homeworld from the incursion of, in canon now, of the Grisk into their territory. So like that was it was almost like an agreement that had been come to. But like there's just he does
fucked
right?
up shit, but I don't think it's from a point of evil. I think it's from a point of this is going to get me what I need.
Yeah, I mean, like for lack of a better term, like he doesn't view, like I don't even think that like he views things as like we are fighting against the rebels who are bad. It's like he views it as like a chess match. It's like I am in a match against the rebels who are my opponent. They are not bad or good. They are opposing me, and it is my job to defeat them in their opposition. But I don't hold like he's not going to be like I hate Ezra Bridger or I hate. No,
he probably respects Ezra for what Ezra was able to pull off, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume so. Like the Thrawn from the books would like look at an opponent who has
and almost shake his hand like, hey, you got one on me.
Like a good tactical measure, he'll be like, man, he outsmarted me there, and I now have to take that into my calculation for the next time. Like he was not a hateful type of person. It was always logical, tactical. How do I win this engagement? Not like I have to kill these rebels. It wasn't ever like that.
Yeah, just to comment to some of the people in the live stream here, like, hey, what about, Bane, Starkiller? We kind of described Bane and Plagueis, why we didn't include them, just not enough canon content. We trust me, on our rainy day to do special topic list, we have some legend stuff there. And we will probably one day get to, the best Legends bad guys or the best Legends battles. So fear not. We do not discount the Legends universe. We're just kind of working through canon to start. So, I mean, really, based on what you're saying, I'm saying in the chat has been, hey, Book, he's S tier, Rebels, he's A tier, Ahsoka, he's C tier. So if we do some math with letters, that equals B tier, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's a fair placement for
100%.
Thrawn.
All right, there you go, buddy. Hey, look at that. Our B tier is now inhabited by 2 blue-skinned mofos. So it worked out. We got Cad Bane in there and Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Indeed.
All right, up next, and this one will be interesting because I actually was a hype man for this character when Beyond the Dune Sea was kind of doing some villain tier ranking. And I made an argument this guy should go to S tier. And here's why. I mean, physical power, kind of like Thrawn, he could fight in his younger days, not too bad. Political power, he was an absolute animal. Kills, probably the most kills in all of Star Wars. Strategy and tactics, he's up there, pretty damn good. Pure evilness, you could argue he's one of the most evil. I'm talking about the grandest of all Moffs, Tarkin. Okay, so hear me out here, Nick. I'll kind of set up my angle here for how he could potentially reach the S tier. And it's solely based on A New Hope, our one movie with this guy outside. You know, we got him in Clone Wars. I don't know if he was
Rogue One?
He was in Rebels and Bad Batch. And Rogue One. Yeah, I mean, he's got a pretty good footprint. He's got a pretty good footprint.
Got a lot of stuff.
His kill count alone, I think, almost takes him to S tier. And you're probably, what are you talking about, Matt? This guy blew up a planet, okay?
Yeah.
He blew up a planet. We're talking billions. He has killed more people than Darth Vader and Palpatine combined with that one fateful Death Star blast because Leia was bullshitting him on where the hidden rebel base was. So right there, that was kind of my argument. We almost, just for his kill count alone, he's almost S tier. Here's another big thing I think people forget. If the OT was your first introduction to Darth Vader in the Star Wars universe, how could you not go Tarkin's Darth Vader's boss?
Yeah.
Tarkin has control over Darth Vader. Tarkin can tell Darth Vader what to do, and Darth Vader listens. Tarkin is the guy. So he had a strong command over Darth Vader in Darth Vader's prime. Strategy, I mean, he architects some evil shit, especially with Rogue One, what he did with the Death Star, blowing up his own shit on Scarif, and then, you know, being able to track the rebels to almost blow them up on Yavin. Power, a lot of political power, not much physical power, but the evilness, he's up there with Sidious. I mean, he's just a bad seed. He was a bad seed way back when he was an officer in the Republic. He's the one that was hoping Ahsoka was going to be in jail. Yeah. So fuck it. I'll lay it out there. S tier for the kill count alone. What say you?
You know, I initially had him in A, but I think you have pushed me over to like really considering him S tier, right? Like Leia literally, one of the first lines Leia ever speaks in Star Wars is not at you. I see you're not at the end of Tarkin's leash. Yeah. Like that is scathing to a character like Darth Vader and shows the absolute like height of that character's power at that time, right? Like this dude is, like you said, commanding Darth Vader around.
Without fear, Nick. Like he had, it's like this had been their relationship. I mean, Vader was pretty subservient. He's like, all right, I guess.
Bro, Vader's choking out some dude at the table, and Tarkin tells him to stop, and he's like, "As you." And Vader literally says, "As you wish."
Thank you, thank you. I mean, if there was never Empire Strikes Back, we would have all been left thinking Tarkin was the boss of the Empire. Correct? There's no mention 100%. Of it. I guess you hear early on, like, "Oh, the Emperor dissolved the Senate," but you're not even fucking paying attention to that. So
yeah, I mean, for sure. So I think that, given your argument, I mean, the Alderaan kill is 100% his full scheming plan that he brought to fruition and executed. So that's all him. And then also, if you just think about the internal machinations that we saw in Rogue One of him like stealing away Project Stardust from Krennic
Well, that's what someone said in here, Nick. I'll summarize it. They're like, he committed like extreme political violence in Rogue One. Like, yeah,
dude, like undoubtedly. So you know what? Like, I put him in A initially, but I think that you have done a good job, and I will agree with you on S tier. Like, this dude he's evil to the bone, and everything he did up until the moment that he died was evil.
And he was arrogant until the moment he died, right? I mean, they're like, hey, do you might want to get out of here? They got some snub fighters, and we identified that there is a flaw here. And he's like, what? The moment of our greatest triumph? Fuck you. I'm Tarkin, bitch.
Dedicated to the cause all the way down. And like, for some of these people, you can't say that. Like, you can't say that they were dedicated to the cause all the way to the end. Like,
Vader wasn't.
You know? Yeah, Vader wasn't. All right. So
yeah, man, I agree. Like I said, listen, I've been this guy's hype man for pretty much the whole summer. When Beyond the Dune Sea did it was back in May, and I cut a video essentially laying out the same points. So you don't have to convince me. He is our second S tier. All right, quick recap before we move on. S tier, we got Palpatine and joined by Tarkin. A tier, Dooku and Grievous. B tier, Cad Bane, Grand Admiral Thrawn. C tier, Grand Inquisitor Jango Fett. D tier, Bozo Fett and Newt Gunray. Up next, we just had someone asking for him in the chat, and you know what? I'm kind of disappointed. I didn't think of the other person Brandon recommended. Yeah, Baylan Skoll.
Baylan, I am not fully ready to call him a villain. Yeah, right? Like, I mean, he is a man with his own agenda.
He was murking.
He was a merc.
But we got Brandon's other ask, and he is our next candidate to debate. And it's a recent villain. It's one that we just became aware of over the last 2 seasons of Bad Batch, and that is Dr. Hemlock. So again, decent amount of political power. He's got some kills under his belt, not directly, but there's a lot of death and horrible shit, experimentation issues going on at Mount Tantus. His strategy, you could argue, is a bit questionable, especially in the last season. Evilness, he's up there. I mean, he was the one giving the commands to go kidnap Force-sensitive kids, lock them up in a prison, and essentially make them live a never-ending Groundhog Day experience. I mean, anyone that's willing to experiment on children, break up families, kill babies, moms, they're pretty evil. So there's kind of my case for Hemlock. Let's see where Nick puts him.
So my initial leaning for Hemlock is C tier, and it's because he doesn't have his own house in order. Like he is not in charge of everything that's happening at Tantus. Like, you have, what was the female doctor's name now? I totally forgot.
Well, I mean, he was in charge, Emery, but he wasn't good at being in charge.
Yeah, he was not good at being in charge. Like, he did not run a tight ship. There were multiple escape attempts that were like not caught, and like, Omega was able to essentially like
get out twice.
Escape his grasp twice. But it's unquestionable how despicable he was. Like, experimentation on children, experimentation on Force users, running
all the clone experiments,
like clone experimentation, Project Necromancer. Like, what he did was despicable, unquestionably. But as a villain, in terms of, his impact, really the best that you can argue is the fulfillment of Project Necromancer in the sequels. But other than that, like...
And it still wasn't what they were looking for. Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for the dyad, he was essentially a zombie attached to a breathing apparatus.
Yeah, like he's in a hospital bed and can't move. Like, so it's just like, how successful
Hospice
was
Palpatine.
He in that? Yeah. But I think for Hemlock, the reason I'm leaning towards C is it's minimal impact. Like, he doesn't have a large breadth of canon content for us to work off of. Yeah. And
he ultimately failed too, right? I mean,
he failed.
His money gets diverted to Stardust.
Yeah, like Mount Tantus falls under his purview. The Zillo Beast gets out, so like this massive experiment, and also, big piece that the Empire has that was at his disposal and under his watch is let out and escapes. The entirety of Mount Tantus is just fucked up. Like, he can't keep his house in order with Emery or with Nala Se. So I would say that he's probably C tier purely because of how despicable he is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Nick made a very good case. He litigated it well. I can't argue putting him any higher than C, but I do think he was a little more jacked than Bozo and Newt, so C is a good tier for Dr. Hemlock. He's joining Django and the Grand Inquisitor.
There we go.
All right, up next, and this is an interesting one because, this character does ultimately have a turn. They don't go full good, but they definitely leave their evil ways behind. But she was definitely a badass and not on the right side of history for a good chunk of the Clone Wars. And I'm talking about Asajj Ventress. All right, we're talking about her before Dooku kicks her out because Palpatine doesn't like kind of the power she's getting with Dooku. She's ultimately why Dooku comes to Dathomir to genocide the planet. There's just too much going on with these witches. But she's a badass. I mean, we know she's got a hefty amount of force power. We've seen her go against the top Jedi in the Clone Wars and hold her own. I mean, she's definitely skilled there. She definitely had a lot of kills. Strategy and tactics, she was more of a weapon, but she was pretty damn good when deployed, never really got herself caught or would just straight out lose. And she definitely had a hint of evilness being pumped through her at when she was embracing the dark side. So I do think Asajj is a worthy candidate to be considered a villain for a part of her time. I just don't know tier-wise where she should go next. What are you thinking?
Yeah, she's difficult, right? Because primarily what we really saw her as was the foil to Anakin during the Clone Wars time period. Like, she was always the one that, like,
she could goad his ass big time.
Exactly. Like, she could really get under his skin and, like, push him further than he probably thought she could. But there was never a moment where I was like, man, she's like truly a master tactician, or like she's got something that nobody else has, which I typically look for like a S tier type of placement.
Right.
I mean, like, phenomenal combatant, one of the few dual wielding lightsaber combatants that we see in the Star Wars galaxy. Can stand, like I was saying before, can stand up in straight up combat with the Chosen One. Has very high skill level. So I'm leaning towards like mid to low B tier here for her because, like you said, fair. she is more of a weapon than anything else that ultimately like realizes that that's how she's being used is as a weapon, and then chooses to go on her own path.
She definitely loses some villain points because she's like, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of being a cunt. Let me rethink my life type of stuff. I'm with you, man. I think she floats in between B and C.
Yeah, I mean, I could see C as well.
With that being said, looking what's in C now, Grand Inquisitor Django Hemlock, I think she's greater than. So I'm going to go ahead and settle on B tier for Asajj.
Yeah. I would say,
I mean, hell, she was a dual wielder, if anything, and she had cool looking hilts. So,
yeah. I mean, it's all subjective, and I will say that, like, if you're just doing a 2-person rank, I rank her above the Grand Inquisitor, which I think, like, if we're looking at these tiers right now, the Grand Inquisitor is kind of like the gatekeeper of C, right?
Yeah,
like.
Yeah, he's the strongest C we have out of Django and Hemlock. I'd say he's the strongest C. He's definitely the leader of that tier. All right. So we put Asajj right there in the B tier. Moving on to the slug of the universe. He needs no further introduction. Definitely a seedy motherfucker. Has tons of power, political power, and then just sheer weight. Kills, maybe not directly, but plenty based on his orders. Strategy and tactics, I don't know. I mean, he is a mob boss. They got to have a little bit of tact. And pure evilness, I mean, again, I just said he's a leader of a crime syndicate, so he's definitely not going to church. He's got a little bad bone in him. We're talking about the big guy, Jabba the Hutt. Nick, what do you say about the slug?
I'm between C and D, and it's purely because, like, he really is as powerful as his money was. Mm-hmm. And his ability to pay people to do the things that he wanted them to do. But when it came down to it and there was actual opposition against him, it was over, right? Like, yeah, you had a Jedi who you could argue was near a Jedi Master, definitely a Jedi Knight at that point, that is assisting in his downfall.
Not according to Yoda. He was not a Jedi Knight yet.
He was
not until, remember, he had to beat Vader to claim that title. That was his trial.
That's true. That is very true. So, I'm leaning D tier because he does have political influence. He was the head of the Hutt cartel, but again, like the loyalty that he inspired was not loyalty based off of even fear. It was more loyalty based off of financial gain. So much so that, like, you know, before Han Solo is in the OT, like, he was working for Jabba the Hutt because Jabba the Hutt paid well. And like, you know, so I think because he has no ability to actually fight because of his physiology. He's not like a sweet talker, and people don't actually like him.
Oh, Shuda.
I think he's D tier because he's just a bag of money that's walking around, and he pays people to do what he wants them to do. Yeah,
like B-Mad said, D tier, he's a gluttonous, greedy slug. That's about it. Like, he is just, he commits one of the 7 deadly sins. Yeah, man, I'm with you. I like Jabba. It was just weird, you know. It's like, what the fuck? I loved it. You know, okay, George, I'm down. A big fat slug crime boss, sure. But in terms of what we're doing here and some of his colleagues, he's D tier. He's going to go ahead and give Newt and Bozo a little bit of company down there in the basement. All right.
I agree.
Up next, coming from a little Star Wars TV into the Mandoverse era, played by one of our greatest actors of modern times right now, although he's been kind of typecast to play this type of role. He basically iced the planet of Mandalore. He beat Mandalorians during the Galactica Civil War there. He was able to set up a base within the inside of their planet without them knowing. He had the Darksaber in his possession at one point in time. You know, he's considered one of the leaders of the Shadow Council in the Imperial Remnant, and he's definitely even rogue on that. I mean, he's doing his own thing there. So he's got power times 2, right? Because we think he's kind of been playing with some cloning sauce. He made himself that Death Trooper or Dark Trooper 3.0, 4.0 suit. He's got kills. He's got strategy, right? No one knew his base was in there. The Mandalorians walked right into that trap, and he's definitely evil. I'm talking about Giancarlo Esposito's Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon, to me, is definitely a good tactician, but you also have to put it into, like, because we don't have a lot of information on Gideon prior to the fall of the Empire, like what his exploits were during
he was
height.
ISB, that's all we know. He was high in the ISB, and he was fucking with Mandalore enough and Mandalorians that Bo-Katan was willing to have a truce with him by giving up the Darksaber.
So it's hard to, like, place him, because also his story may be unfinished.
Correct.
Like we were saying, you know, like, we don't know if there was some cloning shenanigans going on at the end of Mandalorian season 3, or if he's dead or not. So it's hard to judge that part of it. So here's what I'll say. In terms of a combatant, I think that he's low tier combatant. I mean, he had
out of his suit. In the suit, remember, he beats Din hand to hand in his suit.
Yeah. So with assistance, he held his own against a Mandalorian who is most known for getting shot as many times as possible.
I was like, I hope Nick goes to the bullet sponge thing.
Yeah. So he beat up the guy who literally could not hold a Darksaber sword.
Hold my beer! I'm a human shield! Ding, 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 ding. Thanks, Din!
So honestly, beating Din Jar in a hand-to-hand combat ain't that impressive to me.
You're right. You got me on that one, dude. You got me on that one. You are right. It's just like, you know, anytime the Mandos go on a mission now, they're like, hey, should we bring the human shield? Yeah,
let's
get him.
The guy.
Hey, like, Din, we got an important mission for you, bro. Come on, come with us.
He's
and
like,
they
I got my gun's on the fritz. He's like, you don't need it.
Yeah,
you
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're gonna be in tight corridors.
Yeah,
we might need your for your special ability. He's like, okay, Din, go. He's like, what? What are you guys talking about? They're like, all right, now we go.
Yeah, it's like good. They got to reload. Run.
All right. So what are you saying here for the Moff?
My initial thought was B tier because he is a very good tactician.
Right.
He did have
he fucked the Mandalorians hard, and we know how skilled they are.
He did. Like he brought them to their knees, undoubtedly. Like with tactics and intelligence alone, held the Darksaber not from combat as you mentioned, but from
was able to wield it. It wasn't heavy to him.
Yeah, like for some reason, this guy who has no attachment to this blade whatsoever, other than it got given to him by Bo-Katan because he told her to, can wield it no problem. But Din Djarin, this fucking fantastic Mandalorian, lugs this thing around like it's a 2-ton piece of steel. So, like, all
right, what do you want to settle on?
I'm in between B and C, so I will defer to you.
All right. I'm kind of with you, B and C, but again, when I look at who's in C, I'm going to use this to kind of be the final judge, and I think he outclasses the Grand Inquisitor, Jango Fett, and Hemlock. I do kind of see him, obviously we might see it happen, but rubbing shoulders with Thrawn. So I think for a lot of the reasons we made, and just the impact he had on Mandalorians, a warrior culture. He broke them, literally broke them so hard they left their planet and never wanted to come back. I think for that alone, he earns himself B tier.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that.
All right, sticking with the Imperial officer types here, we've got a guy who is not directly responsible for, but definitely helped guide it to the finish that it is the Death Star. We don't really, he doesn't have a lot of physical power, and you can definitely question that he really doesn't even have that much political power based on how Tarkin treats him in Rogue One. You also got to argue his strategy and tactics are quite poor as well. But he's definitely evil for what he chose to do in life, what he chose to work on, how he chose to use it, what he did to Galen Erso. If you haven't guessed yet, he's one of the best dressed out there in the Admiralty. Well, he was a director, but in the Imperial officership. I know that's not real, but just go with it. Director Krennic.
Yeah, my thought initially is C tier, and I could be convinced that he's D tier. Because if you look at Krennic from the standpoint of how he's a clown. You would assume
he's a clown.
Like his colleagues treat him like he's garbage. Like literally, like you said, Thrawn walks all over him. The conversation he has with Vader, like Vader fucking clowns on him. Like everybody that he comes in contact with in the Imperial rankings that is not below him, they just kind of make fun of him. Well,
dude,
right?
think about even his subordinates. I mean, on Scarif, when it's a known issue, he's like, why haven't we released the fucking garrison? He's like, what are you idiots doing? Like, no one cares about Krennic.
Nobody respects him.
Exactly.
So, at the most, you could say that he successfully piloted the Death Star program along to a point to where it was semi-operational, which is how you got the Jeddah explosion and then the Scarif explosion. So he was at least competent in terms of an evil project manager.
There you go. Yeah, he's good at evil project management.
Yeah, but in terms of even his political influence and his ability to inspire fear and or confidence in his peers. Yeah, not respected. So I'm leaning D tier for Krennic because he really did just end up getting clowned on by everybody who interacted with him.
You know what, dude? I think you're right. I think you're right. I can't remember where I put him on my personal list, but I mean, outside of what you said, being really good at evil project management, he's kind of a buffoon, really.
Yeah.
He's a buffoon. Yeah. So we know what we do with buffoons and bozos and around here at the SWTS. they go to the basement. He's D tier.
They do.
Krennic's going D tier. I know that's not going to sit well with Tones if he listens to this, but Krennic, in terms of just his villain profile, there's a lot of holes you can poke in it.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. This is one of my guys. One of my top guys. Love this dude. He got extended life, so I don't know if he didn't have the Clone Wars and some of the other extended features he got, if he would even be considered to approach an A or an S tier. Probably wouldn't happen, but we did get extended time with this character. He's probably one of the coolest, most badass looking characters in Star Wars. He's one of the most iconic and memorable, just how he looks, his introduction to us all, his power level, his skill with a lightsaber, his kill count. His strategy and tactics, pretty good at him too, you can argue. And he definitely is evil. It kind of kept him alive, some would argue. His hatred for Kenobi and just embracing what the dark side needs to make a wounded person live. And we are talking about one of the Darths, one of the best Darths, probably in my top 3 favorite characters from Star Wars, Darth motherfucking Maul.
Darth motherfucking Maul. I mean, honestly,
took over the 9 crime syndicates. I mean, this guy was rocking and rolling. Knew that Anakin was the key to Palpatine's plan before everyone else.
Yeah, I will say that in my personal rankings, I have him S tier.
Fuck yeah,
I have him S tier, straight up.
Damn Skippy.
And it's because of what you said, right? Like if Maul was cool lightsaber spinny guy, dual blade, and then, gets chopped in half, falls down the fucking shaft, and that's it. He's probably maybe C tier just because of the physicality of his combat.
Yeah, he just looked cool and he killed Qui-Gon Jinn pretty easy peasy.
But the extended life that he was given through Clone Wars and through Rebels into the Solo series, I know that was literally just like a blip at the end of the movie. But I mean, the accomplishments that he has are insane, right? Takes over Death Watch and becomes the de facto leader of Mandalore. Like, how the fuck does somebody Maul
I forgot to mention that. He took over a planet.
Yeah, like how the fuck does somebody like Maul pull that off after like he gets chopped in half, thrown down a well, is literally just nuts for fucking ever. And then all of a sudden, he's the leader of Mandalore.
And then as a side hustle, he takes over most of the crime syndicates and leads Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, so his extended life through Clone Wars and Rebels really puts him up there. I mean, and I also, Mariana says in chat, I can't tell if I love Maul or Sam Witwer more. Maul is Sam Witwer at this point.
I agree. I mean, we love Rey, but Rey's got some issues he needs to deal with these days.
Yeah, I mean, Rey brought the physicality.
Correct,
and
that's it.
That combat style that was so unique that we had never seen in Star Wars before. He brought that to that character and left an indelible mark
100%.
With just that. But then Sam turned that character into this master of dark side manipulation and just being able to work his way into places.
He's the soul of Maul, right? Witwer is the soul of Maul. Ray Park 100. Is the physicality.
100%.
Yeah, yes. I mean, listen, I kind of tipped my hand at the beginning that he's one of my top 3 characters. I mean, he probably is right behind Vader at this point in time. And sometimes they battle back and forth, but the big guy is always going to have the number 1 seed, in my opinion. So there's no use in even discussing this further. Darth Maul is S tier, 100%.
Yes, indeed.
All right, here's a fun one here. A newer character showed up in Bad Batch along with Dr. Hemlock. In fact, he was the first big bad of Bad Batch. He has one of the most iconic yells in Star Wars of all time now, thanks to Season 3 and his mission with the Bad Batchers to take back Tantus, even though he was trying to do some evil and shady things. He definitely had political power for a time until he got thrown under the bus. He's got kills. He's another genocider, right? He genocided Kamino with his orders to blow that to bits. You got to argue he was there. I mean, he's the guy that kind of rolled out how the Empire was going to start taking over systems with the ID system and ship code. Registration, chain codes. That's all coming from the guy we're talking about. He ended up growing a beard, Some thought it was sexy. Some questioned why he survived after being thrown under the bus by Sidious himself. But he still was a baddie in Bad Batch. Admiral Rampart.
Admiral Rampart, yes. I mean, at one point, the literal face of the Empire, you know, when the chain code system was introduced in Bad Batch, he was literally on every hollow screen across
he's
the known
evil
galaxy.
For sure. There's no doubt about it. He died being evil. He even tried to like get one over on Nala Se right there at the end to get back in the graces.
So here's the thing, is like, I think that you can make arguments for Rampart to be anywhere from B to D, because he is really like, he closes out his run and dies as a buffoon. Like, he gets, you know, essentially like is strung along by the Bad Batch, and they only use him to get into Tantus. And like, even during the end of that series, I was like, why don't they just fucking kill this guy? Like, why are you still dragging this dude along?
Rampart definitely angered young Nick for sure. He was not a wise narrative choice for young Nick.
It was just a weird thing, right? Because it's like, you've gotten everything that you could possibly get from Rampart, and now that you're on Tantus and you just essentially just leave him to his own devices, like, what do you think's going to happen? Like, the only thing that can happen is that he tries to fuck you over, which he does. So like,
so it plays into his evilness and his strategy and tactics.
It does. So his strategy and tactics are high. Like, you know, the destruction of Camino and all of the clones
kill count
within,
high,
and the Caminoans. So like, to me, that's an argument for like a B tier level. But the fact that he literally got steamrolled in public by his guy, by fucking
that's
Palpatine,
it right there, and
got clowned on, like literally just clowned on by the entire Imperial superstructure. And
clown starts with what, Nick?
C.
That's right.
So I'm leaning C.
No, he's C tier. The only reason I won't put him in D tier is because he committed genocide. So he's definitely got one up on Bozo Fett, Newt Gunray, Jabba the Hutt, and Director Krennic. So yeah, Rampart, you're going there. You're hanging out with your boy who took over your spot as the lead bad guy, Hemlock, there in the C tier. All right, just for the sake of time, we're going to speed these up. Not that these last few are going to take a lot of convincing, especially our next candidate here. There really is no reason to even debate this unless young Nick has an idea of why he should not be considered S tier. But he's considered one of the most imposing looking movie villains of all time. He puts the I in iconic. He puts the in Hopper. Darth Vader. I mean, do we even need to flap our gums anymore about this guy?
But he turns back to the light side, Matt. He turns back to the light.
You are right. You are right. So he does turn his back on his villain side, but when he embraced his villainy, he was cream of the crop. You know, he was pretty damn good at it. He genocided his order. He murdered kids, murdered friends. I mean, took on systems, took out battalions of rebels. I mean, his kill count is high. His power is off the charts. Strategy and tactics, garbage, I would say.
Lacking.
Evilness, very strong, knowing that he was once the beacon of the light and he was willing to turn on that and then embrace his hate of himself. He's pretty freaking evil. I don't know, man. I can't do it. I can't put him anywhere but S tier. But if you want to knock on Vader, what do you say?
I mean, I agree with you that it's got to be S tier just because it is Darth Vader. But if we were to make some arguments, you could say that he never had the will, ability, or power to actually like do what he was supposed to do: overthrow Palpatine and take his mantle as the preeminent dark Lord of the Sith of the galaxy. He could never do it. And there was always conflict in him, regardless of where he was in his run as Darth Vader. He was always conflicted. He could not bring himself to kill Luke Skywalker, his son. At the moment, he had him defeated, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it when they were in the throne room. He didn't have that ability to break through and truly be the level of evil that we see from Palpatine. Still, that being said, he's got to be S tier, right? Like, he he literally kills an entire temple full of children.
Yeah.
Children.
Right.
Like young.
Yeah,
like
man.
The future of the Jedi Order fell at his blade.
He definitely wasn't as committed to being bad as long as his boss and some of these other people in S tier. But he's S tier. I mean, I would feel like an asshole if I didn't put Darth Vader in S tier. So he's going up. Next one. This is going to be tough because if we give Tarkin a bunch of credit for his destruction of a planet,
and Rampart too. So
right.
We got two precedents.
You got to give Hux even more credit because this dude gave orders that wiped out an entire system of planets. So we could be talking in the trillions in terms of his kill count. Now, power, nothing. He was a chat, a dildo, a douchebag.
He was literally a nepotism hire.
Correct.
Like, he was a nepotism hire.
Strategy and tactics, poor.
Yeah, it's like
pure evilness. I mean, being willing to give a command to blow up an entire system, you don't have a lot of light in your soul. And the only reason he became a spy is just because he hated Kylo Ren. He really didn't. He didn't like the Resistance. He didn't want the Resistance to win. He just wanted Kylo to lose.
Yeah, literally, that was his line. It's like, I don't care if you win. I just want him to lose.
Yeah, so like, I don't think Hux is D just for his kill count, but outside of that, it's hard to place him much higher than C or even B. Kind of makes me feel itchy.
I think he's low C because honestly, when I made my tier, I was like, he's buffoonery D level tier. Like it's just not even close.
Yeah, the kill count's the only thing that bumps him to C, I think. I agree. All right.
Exactly.
Hux is going in the C with his little screamy face. All right, next one here, and this could be another quick and easy one because not a lot of time. Paul Bettany plays him very well. He definitely comes off as a villain. You know this guy doesn't have a good bone in his body, but we don't have a large sample size. We're talking about Dryden Voss from Solo.
Here, like, I like the archetype of villain that Dryden and that Paul Bettany built for Dryden, and the writers as well, Kasdan. But like, I like his type of villain. Was he impressive? Not that much. Like, we saw him kill somebody on screen. Like, he killed whoever walked into that room, or
you could tell people were scared of him. So he definitely had a reputation of being evil, bad.
Like very Kira was very intimidated by him.
Beckett was like, "Hey, dude, let's
not
ruffle his feathers."
A lot of people were very scared of him. Cool battle tactics for sure. Like, I enjoyed his
decent
combat
fighter.
style.
His face changes color when he gets mad and angry. Right, his little
very
lines
cool
get
looking.
red.
So, but because of the lack of content and the fact that he does die relatively unceremoniously, I'm like leaning low C to D tier.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Dryden can go D. Just lack of sample size. It really, I don't want to cut Nick off, but if we don't get moving here, we're here for another 25, 30 minutes, and I'm trying not to do that. So next up, he was the bad guy, the big bad force user of the sequel trilogy. He's descendant from Skywalker jizz, so he's got the power, he's got the kills. I wouldn't say this man had very strong strategy and tactics. And yeah, he pretended to be evil. He was another one, kind of like his grandfather. There was, I would say, even more conflict in this character than Anakin himself on, am I a bad guy? Yeah, I'm a bad guy. Like, I would see this character sitting in his room, staring in his mirror like, I'm a bad guy. You're a bad motherfucker, man. You are bad. Like, he had to convince himself. And we were talking about Ben Solo, a.k.a. Kylo Ren.
I have a soft spot for Kylo. I always have had a soft spot for Kylo. I love the character design. I love the way that he was played by Adam Driver. I love his visceral combat action. My initial lean was A, because of especially what we see on Crate, where it's just like they're just pillaging these fucking Resistance people. But it's like I would be okay with B. I put him in A, but I think that like his desire to be evil and like what we saw in TFA, what we saw in TLJ, the moment that he killed, like the way that he kills Snoke, I just love it.
Awesome.
Like that ultimate moment of betrayal, but also fulfillment of his like legacy, right? Like he became the guy, which Vader could never do. Like I think I want to put him in A. I would settle for B. But I think that like there are things that put him at a higher tier.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely in between A and B 100%. I know there's some people in here saying he's a whiny bitch. He's D. I get that.
But that's also like Vader's a whiny bitch too, though. Like
well,
they're both whiny.
In
bitches.
his Anakin form, he was definitely a lot whinier than when he was Vader. You know what, man? Just because you love him, I think you earn to put him up at A. He's going A.
Thank you.
He's going A. I'm sorry, my friends. Kylo Ren's going A. He looked awesome to start. He was pretty badass in TFA, and then, you know, as all things go in the sequel trilogy, things just kind of like blop, blop, bloop, blop. All right. Last but not least here. Last but not least, second best shirtless now. That's divided. I like that divided. True, yeah, because well, that's perfect timing divided because you are helping us introduce our final villain to be ranked. He's the most fresh, the most recent, and sadly one we probably will never see again because his series has been put to bed. We are, of course, talking about the Stranger, also known as Khmer the Goofy. So, yeah, listen. This guy's fresh in our minds. We saw what he did. He is the embodiment of evil, or is he? Remember, it's point of view. Definitely great strategy and tactics. Definitely high on the kill list. Power is way up there. I mean, I love this character. I love this guy. Too. And I do think if we got more and more of him, it would be even more justifiable to start talking about Khmer being S tier.
And that's where I agree with you, is if we get more, and who knows what the future holds. We don't know what the future holds for this character. It may not be through the Acolyte as a series, because it seems like it will not continue or won't continue. But there may be hope out there for us Khmer stans. I would love to put him in S because he's just had such a big impact on how we view villainy in Star Wars in such a short amount of time. But I really do think that he's A tier. He had some of the most badass kills we've ever seen from anybody. Made
Jedi look like they never even trained with a blade in their life.
Yeah, like Swiss cheese level of just cutting these people up. And then just like the way he unceremoniously snapped Yord's neck it will live rent-free in my mind forever. Just like snap his neck and throw him aside like he is a blow-up doll. I'm putting him in A tier because we just don't have enough of him. But the manipulation, the physicality and the violence, the I don't know, man, like the seductiveness that he brought to the dark side.
He's awesome
with how he manipulated both Osha and May. Like I love the character, so I'm gonna say A tier purely because we just need more for S tier.
Yeah, you know, I really want to drag him up to S. And listen, there's a trend in our S tier. It's all fucking Sith, but Tarkin, and they're all badass Sith. So I think Khmer marks up there. But I'm with you. There's not quite large enough sample size.
I'll put if you want to put him in S, I'll put him in S.
I mean, it's tough. Like he looks badass. It's hard, he fights like a badass. He can convince people like a badass.
When you look at the breadth of work of these S tier people, it's really hard to justify it.
Well, here's the other thing. And sadly, even if we don't get a continuation, we know exactly what happens. He dies. He gets taken out by Plagueis because he can't exist in the land of Rule of Two. And we know Plagueis ultimately triumphs and goes on to train Sheev and kills him, and here we are. So, you know what, man? I think you're right. I agree with some people in the chat. Divided, you know, we in spirit we're thinking S, but if we're really going off of what he's put on the paper so far, sadly, I think Khmer has to go A, and that does it for us. So to recap it, then we'll look at the fans, and then we're going to zip through the fan segment. Here's what the SWTS bros did. S tier, we have Palpatine, Tarkin, Maul, Vader. A tier, Dooku, Grievous, Ren, Kamir. B tier, Cad Bane, Thrawn, Asajj, Gideon. C tier, the Grand Inquisitor, Jango Fett, Hemlock, Rampart, Hux. D tier, our lovable losers, Bozo Fett, Newt Gunray, Jabba the Hutt, Dryden Voss, and Director Krennic.
That's all right. I mean, I think that's a really
damn good list. Let's go
that's
ahead
a good list.
We're gonna save that up.
I don't think that a lot of people can argue against it. You can maybe make a little move here or there, but I think that's pretty solid. Pretty solid.
We saved it, so we'll share it for posterity. Now let's go check in on what the fans came up with. They had 24 hours to vote. We had 19 people get in, 242 votes cast. Their S tier, for just going on total results, which we will. Well, here's my list real quick. I did include Kamir in S tier on my personal list, after all. All right, the fans' S tier: Palpatine, Vader, Thrawn, Kamir. Nice. A tier: Ren, Tarkin, Jabba, Maul, Bozo, Cad Bane. You dogs. B tier: Krennic, Grand Inquisitor, General Grievous, Dooku. C tier: Dryden Voss, Jango Fett, Hux, Ventress, Gideon, Hemlock. D tier: our only match here in the D tier, poor Newt, and what the hell is this guy? Rampart. So there you go. We will save our fan votes and rocking and rolling. Good job, everyone. That was fun. Who knows what we'll do next week, but it's probably going to be a special topic. Yeah, thanks, Bat. We did Boba A just to mess with me. I know, you guys all love me. You like giving me anxiety and getting me all worked
attack
up.
Against Matt.
All right, Nick, so we're going to try to zoom through our fan segment here. We do it every week. We got 2 ways to get involved, at least for the fan segment. Don't forget, Ask Us Anything always kicks off our show. We post that on our social platforms, just like the question of the week. It goes up on Instagram, Discord, YouTube, Twitter. You just got to be following. Hopefully you got notifications on for us so you can see our content and interact with our content. If you've been listening to this show or watching, you're like, hey, how come a lot of the same people always get featured in Ask Us Anything or Question of the Week? Well, that's because they actually engage with our content and the algorithm shows it to them so they can engage. All right, so Question of the Week, we asked the fans out there, hey, who's your favorite villain and why? So let's see what the fans had to say about our little special topic here, Nick. There are probably more than we need because I thought we'd zip through that. But as always, we love to talk and listen to ourselves talking. So as fast as you can, go.
Yes. 2797 Studio says, wow, no easy choice again. But as always, the OT has my heart and Vader will always be the biggest and baddest. The first time seeing him on screen just blew me away. There was no one that even came close. Maul has become a second favorite of mine over the years. For certain, but Vader will always be number one.
I'm with you, Bat. I'm with you, bro.
Tones1138 says, used to be Darth Maul, but Krennic is my favorite now. Love Mendelssohn's portrayal of him, his headstrong aspirations, and ruthlessness to achieve his ultimate goal. Especially love the rage he unleashes with Tarkin and Rogue One. The Catalyst novel did an outstanding job of introducing him into the franchise, and I cannot wait to see more expansion with him in Andor. I love Johnny's answer. I'm just going to say this straight up. SWTA says, hello, SWTS. The Jedi are the true villains of the Star Wars universe.
Hopefully your buddy Phil's not watching.
But my favorite villain, and perhaps it's my love of Westerns, has to be Cad Bane.
There you go.
Both
we gave Cad a B tier, I think, right?
Not too bad. There we go. So yes, Cad was our B tier. Sir Dork says Darth Maul has been my favorite since I was 7-year-old brat in 1999. He was just too cool not to love. As his story has progressed more since then, I've realized he's kind of a loser. He's failed at just about everything he tried to do, but I still love him and he's still my favorite.
So do we. S tier.
S tier. Quick Picks Toys says, finally, I would go for Palpatine, much more cruel than Vader.
True.
He killed his master while asleep. He screamed for help to Anakin, then finished Windu. He's the boss. He's the real dictator, acting from behind in prequel until episode 3. He's the only 100%. One who plans everything.
S tier for life.
S tier. Mando Pirate says Palpatine, just because he was able to mask his whole presence from the Jedi, he also caused the downfall of the Jedi without lifting a finger. Very true. S tier. Next up, this is I'm sorry, I totally forgot her handle, but she was in our previous Tiger Lily. Tiger Lily. She says, lost it now. Tiger Lily says Asajj Ventress, a total badass that's complex and goes through such relatable changes and evolution throughout her life.
True that.
Yeah, very, very formidable foe for sure, and a lot of character growth. Now that you mention it, Tiger Lily, very true. This one here, Lady Elaine says, of course there are so many, but when you word it as my favorite, I have to go with Darth Maul. His look, his double-bladed lightsaber, his fighting style, his voice, his whole demeanor scream villain with finesse to me. The Duel of the Fates is one of the most recognizable songs that features him, and when I hear it, Maul always comes to mind. Plus, how many villains come back after being split in two?
Hey,
Can't argue
Nick,
there.
we have a revelation here. Mariana is Tiger Lily.
Oh, Mariana is Tiger Lily.
I love it.
There you go.
I love that
Thank you for joining
bringing
the live stream
in
chat.
females here at a good clip. I love this. This makes me happy.
I like having. I really enjoy how diverse of an audience group that we have. It really is something that I feel proud of. We may not have a huge listener base.
They're fucking dedicated, and unlike what's that game called? Black Wukong.
Black Wukong, where everybody is an animal.
We are very diverse and inclusive here at the SWTS.
That's what we strive. That's what we strive to do. EKU Rory, as you can see, is a pug, so we have a dog one of our longtime fans as well. Says, I want to say Maul, but we need a solo sequel.
Okay, fair enough.
No arguments from me. Mr. Rory.
On to the YouTube fandom here.
YouTube fandom. BMAD says, my favorite Star Wars villain would have to be Padme. She pretty much groomed my boy Anakin and then betrayed him when all he wanted to do is bring peace to his new empire. Dude. You know what, dude? I did have that Padme rant.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he picked up this angle from young Nick, who at one point in time said, you know what? Padme pretty much is the reason for the season where everything went fucked over in the prequels. So, yeah, hey, there you go.
I'm not wrong either. And neither is BMAD. Neither is BMAD. So, good stuff there. And then Phil, my buddy Phil, he says, I have to stick with Vader.
Yeah.
He still has the best overall arc in Star Wars, in my opinion. To see his rise, fall, and eventual redemption through episodes 1 through 6 is a great story. Gotta agree.
Phil, just make sure you skip the part where Johnny Osage says the Jedi are the true villains. Okay.
Awesome. There we go. So yes, glad to have you in the Discord as well, Mariana. Thank you.
You can skip Tones's because he just repeated what he did on IG, but League and Divided are new.
Yes. So. League of Extraordinary Sixthers. She says, I am in the middle of the Catalyst novel now. Krennic is so fleshed out. So she's a Krennic fan too.
Jumping on the Krennic train here.
Apparently this Catalyst novel, which I actually have and have not finished, really gives him some good narrative. So I might have to go through and read it. And then Divided Skywalker here says, Thrawn from the audiobooks is an all-time favorite by far. Because he is so intelligent and always thinks 5 steps ahead of everyone else. I also love how he always remains so calm and collected, even in emergency situations. A recent favorite from the High Republic books is Marchion Ro.
Is that Nihil, right? Were they Nihil?
Yeah. Nihil, the leader of the Nihil, I believe. The way that Mark Thompson, the narrator, paces his voice is so eerie and unique. I would love to see Ro in live action or even an animated series. And I have to give a shout out to Kamir / The Stranger, even though he didn't get as much love as I think he should have. He's definitely the Star Wars villain that I am most excited about and want to see more of. Sorry for being a broken record on that topic. Hey, we said the same thing. We love to see more Kamir. We hope we see more Kamir.
I need to get in this audiobook trend, like Bat's saying. It's not books anymore, audiobooks. And I think that's how most humans are trending. And it sounds like, in particular, Star Wars audio novels get really good kind of theatrical, like theater type performances here. So, and then League says I can't get into them. I fall asleep. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and keep myself out of that arena. Thank you.
Yeah.
There was a second, I'm like, you know what? I should start listening to some of this shit while I'm playing my Flick-It golf.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all the questions, Nick. So now it is time for the top 5 Star Wars fan artist features of this week. To get involved, this is all done through Instagram, and your best bet is to add tag at StarWarsTime.show. That's right, StarWarsTime.show on Instagram. Add tag, use hashtag Star Wars Time Show. But the only way to be considered for the top 5 for young Nick to choose you is add tag. You got to be in that section of the app. All right, my friend, who did you grace this week? Who are you bestowing the honor of the top 5 to?
Kick it off this week. We got Corey K Figures, Corey.K_figures on the Instagram. And this is, it's a shot of Greedo. And I saw this shot and I was like, man, you know what? We don't get a lot of good Greedo shots, but this is a good one. And it made me think that this is Greedo. It says it's on Coruscant, but I pictured it on Nar Shaddaa Casino World, where it's he just got a fat paycheck from Jabba and he's going gamble his credits away at the Nar Shaddaa Casino. But I thought it was a cool shot, good posing, good use of background elements to really push Greedo into the foreground. So yeah, I just thought
and just
awesome.
to add there, Nick, same things that you said. I also like the lighting there to kind of give us that Coruscant Undercity vibe, or like you said, Nar Shaddaa. I think it works well. You get that purple bouncing off his right side. Job well done from Corey.K_figures on the IG.
Nice. All right, next up, we got Carl_photography. Dude, this one is awesome. So what you see is a lineup of all the bounty hunters and scoundrels in Star Wars in their Lego mini form. So you got all, I'm not going to go through and name all. You got all the big hitters on the bounty hunter side. Behind them, you see Lego Han and Carbonite, and then the slave one in the mist behind them as well. It's just an awesome lineup of.
They even
have
Valance in here, and if you read War of the Bounty Hunters, you'll know who that is. But it's he kind of looks like a Terminator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Valance is the guy. He takes out. Does he take out Bosk? No, he doesn't take out Bosk. He fought Dengar or something, right?
Yeah, they were all the War of the Bounty Hunters actually was probably the last good run. Check it out. We don't really have time to get into it, but yeah, he's kind of a. Like a random bounty hunter from comics, but he's cool looking.
Yeah, good stuff there from Carl_photography. Next up, I love this one here. This is such a cute shot.
This is quality.
Yeah. So this is from Toy.
I just imagine what other people on the beach were thinking as this was being set up.
I know, right? So from Toy TSH on Instagram, what we see is a mashup between the Marvel and Star Wars universes on the beach. So we see dude. Little Grogu in sitting in an inner tube with his water gun and his little Star Wars. He's got little Din Djarin in his hand playing with his little figures with his sunglasses on, and then right next to him, sitting on his inflatable flamingo, is little baby Groot.
Yeah, I love Groot. Groot in clothes. There's something about that, man. It just takes the cuteness up to a factor of 1,000.
I know. It's such a cute shot. Just these two hanging out on the beach with their sunglasses in the sand. It's really fun.
Oh, man.
So if you like this type of stuff, make sure to give Toy TSH a follow on Instagram.
It's awesome. Like I said, I used to do this too. I mean, any of us toy photographers that would shoot out in nature or the outdoors, it's always interesting to do your staging in a public place like a beach, because people typically, especially if you're older, you're like, what is this? This is like we're letting the crazy people out today. We're letting them out of the asylum, or is he a slow adult? What's going on here? Is he Chester the molester? So it always takes balls to do something like this. So kudos to Toyt TOYTSH on Instagram.
That's right. Next up, we got Quick Picks Toys, who was one of our responders in the previous segment, and he's given us an awesome look at the incursion of the Hoth Rebel base by Vader and his snow troopers. And it's an awesome shot. So you see fallen rebel troopers on the ground in front of the snow troopers and Vader. One guy actively being killed.
Oh yeah, the ad driver just fucking murking him like that. He's like, cool.
Shot right in the
head. Sit back down, bro.
And then just Vader being Vader, awesome posing on all these figures right in the back. Yeah, just well posed. The diorama that he used for this is next level. I don't know if this is a digi. I doubt it.
I think it is.
Is it a digi?
Yeah,
wow.
I think it is.
Like good depth in a digi here for sure. But yeah, just a perfect setup here by Quick Picks Toys on the IG. And to close out the top 5 for this week.
A battle from last week's rank off.
A battle from last week's rank off. And hey, I said earlier in the show, I got a soft spot in my heart for this guy. It's a shot of Kylo and Rey about to start their battle on Starkiller Base, the forest. The lightsaber effects are awesome. So in the foreground, you just see kind of Kylo's right half or right side with the lightsaber ignited. And then you see Rey standing there valiantly, Skywalker family blade ignited in her hand, ready to defend herself against the evil Kylo Ren. Good use of snow effects here. The setup of the trees and diorama look great, and good posing on both these figures.
Yeah, the poses are spot on. The angle, the perspective he went with, so you kind of get, Kylo is in the foreframe there, but the focus is on Rey, so you kind of get that forced perspective. And again, sequel trilogy didn't quite pan out the way I hoped, but this movie and this moment in particular are definitely high on my list. They are in my Star Wars heart and soul, so I dig it too. Coming from @BlackSeriesBonanza, all one word on Instagram.
That's right. And that is the end of the top 5, and that is the end of our show. So Matt, Go ahead and close us out.
All right, people, we'll get we'll get the runtime under control here in a little bit. But in the end, listen, we're having fun. We're talking. It's not like we're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs and then sticking up our butt and seeing how many times we can rotate around it. So I always enjoy talking about stuff that's not real with my friend Young Nick, and those of you in the live stream chat. You really have come alive over these past few months. Getting some new people in here, encouraging them to stay in, some good viewpoints. We love it. Literally, this is why we do this stuff, okay? I'm not looking for any cash. I don't give a shit, although I could use it these days, but that's not why I'm here. You know why I'm here. I'm here to be recognized. I need my bucket filled. And when you people showed up and you give us, interaction through the live stream chat or, interacting in the Discord, the DMs, that's why we do this. We love the little community we built. We just need to get bigger, right? Because I am a Tinkerbell. The more the merrier. The more claps I get, the stronger my wings are, the farther I can fly. So tell a friend. If you liked what you heard today, if you're listening on audio only, if you liked what you saw, try to convince someone else. Give us a chance. Yeah, every once in a while we have some potty mouths, but for the most part, we're on the up and up. We're not weirdos like a lot of other Star Wars content creators are these days. We're not trolls. We're not hating. We're not misogynist. Let's grow this party a little bit. We love all you. We love even more of you. So don't forget, when you're out there stumping for us, StarWarsTime.net, that's the best resource on the internet you can give a new fan to explore. We don't have as much content as we used to, but we got many important links out there on StarWarsTime.net. Okay? Podcasts, we got the links. If you want Apple, we got a link for that. Google got a link for that. Android, link for that. Tuner, Pandora, Spotify, we're everywhere. All we ask is if you join the podcast platform and they allow you to leave a rating and review, please drop us some love there, because that's the best way to tell the machines, our overlords, the AIs of the world, that, hey, these meatbags aren't too bad. Other meatbags should check them out. All right, my friends, there's always time for Star Wars Time. Great to have you in here, Mariana. We always love seeing new people that come and stay. It's amazing people stay. We've been known, or at least I've been known, to chase people off after just a few minutes. So, hey, we're hitting our stride, young Nick. Don't forget, there's always time for Star Wars Time. And if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, like our friend Bat is saying right here, the Force will be with you always.